welcome back to the AL Central Rundown. I'm Eric, and with me today is Dan and Lee. We're coming to you guys on the Friday after the All-Star break. Baseball is finally back, unless you're in Cleveland because their game got postponed. But the Tigers playing an hour. The Twins right now are at the bottom of the first, playing against the Cubs. They have two men on. Not liking the start of this, but we'll see what happens. We've been teasing this episode for about a month. And we've definitely talked about it in our Discord chat of when we're going to do it, how we're going to do it. And really, I think it might have only been my worry was we're going to talk for 9.5 hours. So we're kind of splitting this up in a midweek episode. We're going to cover the Royals and the Tigers. The Royals and the White Sox for sure on Saturday. Depending on how chatty Dan and I are, we might do the Tigers. So we don't know yet. We did just drop a 3-hour episode just before this, but there hasn't been baseball, so hopefully you guys got through that. I thought that was pretty good. Lee was tipsy throughout the episode.
I'm like fine at this moment, but it makes for good content, right?
It did. You did just... Honestly, nobody knew until you said it, and then it just became very funny. And I almost renamed the episode because it's my favorite quote from you now. At some point, you just said, "I'm tired and drunk," and I almost renamed the episode "Tired and Drunk." Like, but anyway, go listen to that. But standings haven't changed to Saturday. It's still the White Sox, the Guardians, the Twins, Tigers, Royals. Let's just start going into it. And like, do we want to talk about the All-Star game? I don't personally watch it. I like other people like it, but do we want to spend a couple minutes on that or just talk about the Guardians?
I want to talk about the home run derby, if anything, because that was amazing.
Okay.
The home run derby was awesome. They changed the format back to they had the first round, it was 20 swings, and the first 4 advanced, and then it was head-to-head, 15 swings, and then the same for the final round, where it's head-to-head of 15 swings. And they had it where if you get a home run on the final swing, you just keep going,
Nice.
right, until you don't hit a home run. It was the best home run derby I've watched in a long time because it was way more entertaining when you can actually see the home runs because they're not wildly panning all over the place.
Oh, sure.
The camera direction still had issues because it was Netflix and the commentary was not great because they had Will Ferrell on there at some point, whatever. The important part is in the final round, Kyle Schwarber gets up with the entire Phillies crowd behind him, and he goes and he hits 11 home runs and 15 swings. And you're like, wow, that was amazing. There's no way he's not going to win this. Jordan Walker goes, he is down to, he needs 6 home runs and 3 swings, and he goes and he hits 6 home runs in a row. It was amazing because every single time you're like, is he going to miss one? And just no, he just... Keep in mind, this is Philly. They were booing children who were missing fly balls in the outfield. So they boo every single time he gets a home run. They're cheering every time for a pop-up and stuff. And he just complete ice cold and just goes and just absolutely destroys them. It was amazing.
Didn't a kid rob a home run? They still counted it, but...
Last year.
That was last year. Okay. I saw that highlight a year too late then. Whoopsie.
That was a blast. Both literally and figuratively.
Yeah, but
yeah, thank you. I became a Jordan Walker fan on Monday. Like, he was impressive, and he's a young player for the Cardinals that really put on a show. That anticipation of he's got no more outs left. Like, next swing that doesn't leave the yard, he's done, and he stood up there and in front of a hostile crowd, as hostile as you're going to get for that type of thing. But remember, these are Philly fans, like Lee was saying. They booed everybody except for the 2 players on the field from Philadelphia that night. And he stood up to it and he did it. And I don't know. Really cool moment. And I really do like the format. I could do without the head-to-head. I don't know why that's necessary in the second round. Like, to me, just pick the 2 guys in the second round that hit the most home runs. Have them advance. That's the only note I have on the format. Really good change in the format, though, and looking forward to next year.
Yeah,
did anyone watch the All-Star game?
I kind of watched it, had it on in the background. It was kind of boring after the first inning, though.
I know it was 4-0, and the AL won because, of course.
AL won because the pitching was dominant.
Yeah.
And I just want to shout out both Parker Messick and Cade Smith, who threw 2 innings on 19 pitches combined. You know, had Bryce Harper mic'd up for facing Cade Smith
I heard some.
and strikes him out. He goes, "Man, that's disgusting." Like,
Mhm.
yeah, yes, it is. Good for you to learn about it, Bryce. But yeah, it was. I wasn't as disenchanted with it as it sounds like Lee was. It was a fine game. You know, it moved. Other than the breaks between innings, I thought the Sandlot homage was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was
But yeah, fine, 4-0 AL win, and unfortunately, other than the pitching, the AL Central didn't really show up much. Other than
Kevin
some
McGonigal had a lot of fun, and that's what I'm
coming back home, right? He's from the
Yeah.
area, so
That was pretty cool because when they do the player introductions, right, they say from the Detroit Tigers from Delco County, Kevin McGonigal, and he gets a pretty big cheer from the crowd too. So that was really awesome for him. I'm just really excited for him because he's 21, playing in an all-star game in his hometown in the stadium he grew up going to games for. So that was, he talked a lot about how special it was, and you got to go home and sleep in his childhood room and all that kind of stuff.
His parents still own that house, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like, yeah. I'm like, do they bring him for ice cream after the game? They give him some orange slices.
They had to have. You only get the orange slices if you win.
Well, he did win. He didn't do anything really in the game.
And he gets his orange slices.
So he gets his orange slices. Yeah, that was just really what I was concerned about. I was like, well, he had a great time. Dylan Dingler didn't hurt his hand anymore. He only caught like 2 innings, and I'm like, I'm not really concerned about him staying in because he has a swollen hand. So, yeah, it was still kind of ballooning a little bit in some of the pictures you could see. But, yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I didn't. Like I said, I didn't watch too much of it. I saw Joe Ryan struck out two. I think it was he gave up a single to Soto, struck out someone, and then C.J. Abrams, and then that was kind of it. So, good for Joe. He did it again. I hope he's a Twin next year so he can do a three-peat. But we'll see what happens. I guess we'll talk about that in a bit. But for now, why don't we start talking about the Guardians, who are once again leading the division, tied for the start of the division, but in a place that is very familiar to them. It's a different character than the last couple of years, and they just keep doing it, even though they haven't had their best player for the last month, 5 weeks, something like
4.5 weeks at this point. It'll be 5 weeks at the end of this week.
Not that
Okay.
you're like counting the days or anything.
Not at all.
Yeah, nobody's tracking. He just said 4.5 weeks and 37 hours and 15 minutes. And
I will say, Angel Martinez and Jose Ramirez on Wednesday took live at bats off of Ben Lively, which is another name you haven't heard in quite a while. Guy trying to recover from Tommy John surgery, and so those 3 guys had a little powwow on Wednesday. And Angel will be, I believe, going on a rehab assignment starting tomorrow. A little bit more lead time on Jose Ramirez, so we're not quite there yet, but things are trending in the right direction. Getting into our midseason review here, the Guardians, as Eric mentioned, are technically, I think, in second place in the division. If you do the math on the percentage points, the White Sox have a fraction of a percent lead in the division, and technically the Guardians are the second team in the wild card right now. They're 3 up on Seattle, which would be the third team in the wild card. So they are a playoff team at this juncture, and that is also, as Eric mentioned, despite the fact for the last 4.5 weeks since the day that I've dubbed Bloody Saturday. I see Eric chuckling.
I only chuckle because now she's gotten very good at hiding it, but there's just a little bit of a microaggression in her face that she just that's
You still won that game, you remember, in case you forgot. You won that game.
We won the battle, but we lost the war, Lee, because on that day...
War, you're still leading
I was about to say, the war is still going pretty well, Dan.
That's a bad analogy. There were a lot of casualties. What is that? There's a name for that. I forget. It's that word that starts with a P that I never know. Thank you. That word. That is what that day was. And so, anyway, on that day, Chase DeLauder, Angel Martinez, Jose Ramirez, all lost in that one game. In like the course of an hour, all three of those guys went down with injuries. Two of them are still on the IL. During that time period, the Guardians have gone 12-13. I mean, not a lot to write home about going 12-13 usually. But for the fact that the team lost their most important player, arguably in recent franchise history, their star rookie, and the guy that was leading them in slugging, to be 12-13 over the course of those 25 games, you could do a lot worse. So, not to mention, as I said a second ago, still tied for the division. There hasn't been a lot lost here. And so that kind of puts us in position to see kind of what this remaining 65 or so games will bring. And it could be, that this team is going to be competing again for the postseason. Before we get there, let's look back. And I'm going to start with the offense, since kind of referenced that a little bit already. Some stats just to kind of tell you where we're at here. Overarching stat, WRC plus, for those that don't know. This weights all the outcomes that occur offensively in a baseball game, meshes them into one stat. They are 25th in WRC plus. So by this measure, they're the 25th best offense out of 30 in Major League Baseball. If you like something more basic, they're 29th in batting average. Not very good. Something that this team has a reputation for is higher batting average. Obviously, that's not the case this year. 23rd in on base, 29th in barrel rate, 29th in xwOBA, which is quality of contact, and dead last in slugging. This team is last in slugging percentage in Major League Baseball this year.
369, according to Baseball Reference.
You got four guys with 10 home runs, and then it's just a bunch of people with 3.
Yeah. So not a lot of top end power, not a lot of guys with 25 home runs a la Byron Buxton. Just that's the name that came to mind. Obviously, he's towards the top of the leaderboard in general. But also, not a lot of guys. There's a few that are, decent, 10 home runs, probably on pace for about 20, maybe a little bit less. And then a bunch of guys that haven't really hit the ball out of the ballpark very much at all. That being said, looking at some of the individual players, I wanted to start here. And I wanted to start with somebody that I was hoping was going to be somebody that would maybe hit some home runs for this team this year. Somebody that had a really good September last year, and I was hoping would build off of it. And that just never really came to fruition. And that somebody that I keep referencing is now in the minor leagues, catcher Bo Naylor. Naylor, two things about him so far this year when he was in the majors. For one, he was exceptionally unlucky. His quality of contact stats suggest that he should have been performing much better than he was. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see on your screen right now. 143 batting average, 200 on base, 238 slug. Those are atrocious numbers. And some of that, like I said, can be attributed to luck. I don't think you can hit that poorly and have it just be luck, though. And the biggest thing was just not driving the ball, hitting a lot of pop-ups, a lot of weak fly balls. And the biggest thing in his StatCast data was that he wasn't making launch angle sweet spot contact. He wasn't in the sweet area between 8 degrees and 32 degrees where you're driving the ball. Everything was either up in the sky or everything was directly into the ground. You can hit the ball as hard as you want. You can hit it at 110 mile an hour exit velo. It doesn't matter if you hit it straight up or straight down. And Bo was doing a lot of both. Also, great batting eye in his career, high walk rate generally, and that was not coming to fruition this year either. The organization made a bold choice in May, and they decided they were going to pivot away from Naylor, who was somebody that they had put a lot of sweat equity into as a former first-round pick and as a player that they had really given every opportunity to succeed with the coaching he had gotten. Some of the minds on that coaching staff, Sandy Alomar, Stephen Vogt, even having Austin Hedges as a mentor, and it just didn't come to fruition. Instead, the team made a trade, and they traded for Patrick Bailey. Bailey is arguably the best defensive catcher in the sport. And I'm not even sure it's that arguable. And off of that, that's his reputation. He's not much of a hitter, to the point that I think the Giants just wanted rid of him because before the trade, his OPS was 396. That was his OPS, not his slug, not his not his on base. It was 390. And I think the Guardians thought, one, get him out of San Francisco, which is a horrible hitting environment. And two, they thought maybe they could work with him a little bit and at least improve upon. It can't get much worse than 396 OPS. And he's been better at the plate in Cleveland, 616 OPS after the trade, sharing time with Austin Hedges. And combined with Austin Hedges, the real thing here is this wasn't about improving catching offense. This was just as much about the fact that Naylor had regressed behind the plate from being an above average framer and a decent guy at throwing runners out. Bailey is elite of elite, and Hedges along with him, they're both elite of elite. And the Guardians made the decision that if Bo Naylor isn't working out, then we are going to go all in on catcher defense. And that is going to be the hallmark of what we're doing behind the plate. We're going to manage our pitching staff as best as we can. Anything we get offensively from our catching spot is bonus. And that's the decision they made with the information in front of them. And to a point, it's been successful. One more player on the disappointing side that I wanted to allude to here, Stephen Kwan, another player that different than Bo in that fact that Kwan has a track record offensively in his career, more so than Naylor did, but a player that didn't have a very good second half in 2025, and they were hoping to see some improvement and had some expectations for here in 2026. And the best way I can sum up Kwan's season is Stephen Kwan has one barrel all season. He has barreled one ball. There are three
One?
players. Yes, one.
Not
There are
1%, just one. That's
No.
insane.
one time he has gone up to the plate and done the StatCast definition of a barrel.
Wow.
One of three players with 200 or more balls in play and one or less barrels. The other two are Chandler Simpson, speedster for Tampa Bay. He's hitting 279. Nasim Nunez plays for the Washington Nationals. I believe he's kind of a utility speed guy as well.
Yeah.
He leads
Hitting
in stolen
240.
bases. Yeah.
I was about to say he just tries to get on first.
He's hitting 242. Kwan is hitting 225. And that's actually improved. He might be actually coming out of it a little bit. In the last 15 games, and that's a small sample, and anything can happen in 15 games, so I'm not saying that like everything's fixed and hunky-dory and everything, but it's better than the alternative. Kwan's hitting 295 in his last 15 games. His OPS is 801. I will say that OPS is kind of propped up by two triples, and I don't know that triples are replicable. But again, 295 batting average, that's a lot more Stephen Kwan-like. That's a lot more what you would be expecting of him in general. Additionally, his xWOBA, his quality of contact over that 15 games, is much more in line with what we saw in 2024 or 2020, the better seasons of his career. So perhaps he's coming out of it. It's been a long set of doldrums, if that's the case, dating back to last year. But really, when I think of kind of the players that you were expecting more of out of this offense and it hasn't come to fruition, Kwan and Bo Naylor are the two that come to mind. I do also want to speak positively on somebody, though.
Just on Kwan,
Hopeful.
it's been so stark, and he's been coming down. Even if you just look at his quick OPS, his 2024, it was 793, 2025, 704, this year, 614. It has been like such. I mean, his skill set was like, I'll say fine. Like, he really had to be like sharp. He doesn't have the fastest bat speed. He's a contact guy. He's never really had a high barrel rate. If you look at his Savant page, other than the first percentile for exit velo, barrel, and hard hit and bat speed, he's never. This isn't that far off from what his career typically looks like. The same categories that are bright red are still bright red, and the categories that are bright blue have always been bright blue. Expected slugging in 2024 was up a little bit. Is there this might sound like, does he need to get his actual eyes checked? Like, did he get hit in the head and did that, like, and don't mean this as like a joke, but like his skill set was so like keyed in on one area, and once that one area slips a little bit, you almost kind of wonder, like, does he not see the ball as well as he did last year?
I get what you're going for, and the way you're saying it's a little on the nose, and that's okay. But I do think the way I'd talk about it is something in Stephen Kwan's approach is different, significantly different. He has become incredibly. He's always had a good batting eye,
Yeah.
but he's become incredibly passive. I've watched him, and this is obviously anecdotal, but I've watched him take 2-0 fastballs right down the middle this year at 94. Not anybody overpowered, just strike one. Doesn't even consider offering at it. A couple of years back, I remember I talked about it on the show. He was talking about wanting to drive the ball more. And nobody was going to, he wasn't going to convince himself that he was going to hit 30 home runs or anything. But part of the adjustment, part of the cat and mouse of hitting in the major leagues, when somebody threw him a challenge pitch, he needed to be able to ambush it and hit a double, maybe get lucky and hit one over the fence every once in a while. And he has stopped doing that to the point that, a couple of years ago, he was practicing swinging and missing on purpose because he just wanted to get comfortable with the idea of taking an A swing and on a 2-0 count. He's still talking about all that stuff, but to me, it looks like Stephen Kwan is literally just trying to put the bat on the ball this year. Like, he's not. There is no authority in his swing. There's just, I'm trying to meet bat to ball no matter what. And I'm gonna ground out to second, or I'm gonna hit a little bloop fly out to left. And to me, it's approach. It's a complete, and I don't know that it's purposeful. I don't think he purposely is going out of his way to think this way. I think it's just falling into bad habits. I think it's, if you don't practice that skill, if you don't work that muscle, it kind of goes away. And I think, like I said, I think he's just gotten into bad habits, and hopefully that's turning around now. But just my eyes, that's the difference. And it does lead to, well, is the way you put, well, does he need to get his eyes checked? Well, maybe, because that's 93 down the pipe and he's not swinging, but it's probably a mentality thing of some sort.
I do know this is from a couple years ago, but there is something like one of the first signs that an older player is ready to collapse is if their walk rate has like a significant improvement has like a sharp improvement at the start of the season, but they have a sharp improvement. And they kind of theorize that. And then after you see that, and then just like the stats crater. And it's part of that is the guy in his head means I need to look at this specific pitch because I can't catch up to anything else. So I have to look at this zone and everything else I'm going to spit on. And that means a little bit more walks. Stephen Kwan's only 28. I don't think we're in this danger, but that is kind of worrisome if he's just taking pitches down the pipe at 28, and he doesn't have bat speed. He literally has first percentile bat speed at 62.7. He doesn't have much bat speed to lose, but he's also never had bat speed. So like, I don't know. It's very interesting that he's kind of, it appears that he's always had a good eye too. So like he's very difficult to maybe judge this off of, but like, that is what popped in my mind when you said that he's just taking strikes down the zone. It's like, well, can he get to that pitch anymore? And then you look, he's only 28. He has I thought his contract year was this year, but it's next year. But I don't know.
You would expect, if you can't get to it, you'd expect the K rate to go up, and it really hasn't. But again, I think it's a mentality thing. I think it's up for debate, but I think it's a mentality thing. The other thing I'll mention, and I can't take credit for this, I forget who it was at Fangraphs, but salute to Fangraphs, because they did a write-up on Kwan recently. The blue you see on that StatCast page, it can only get so blue. Like, he could have been 1 percentile barrel rate last year, and he would have had more than one barrel in the first
Right.
half. Like there's only once you get to a certain like you can only get so far into the extreme. It's still one percentile, and so I think things have gotten the blue has gotten even bluer, even if it doesn't show on the screen that way. And we'll see what the second half brings because
How does
I
it
mean
make
he's
you
not where they're
feel?
going to get power from anyway. But in that 15 game span, the Guardians were 9-6 when he's hit better. It matters how he performs.
How does it make you
I
feel that you have one less barrel than Stephen Kwan this year? Does that
Pretty
feel
good.
good? Yeah, I was about to say I feel good about myself.
I have a theory, and I don't know what you. I kind of just want to. Okay, so I'm going to preface this with I am a hater, so maybe just grain of salt, me maybe. From my what I've seen out of Stephen Kwan in previous years, he seems to live in BABIP, where he just puts the ball in the right spot on the field, and the numbers kind of back that up. I pulled up in 2024, his BABIP was 304, which is a little bit on the high side, but not extreme. But you go to 2025 and his BABIP is 283. And you go to 2026 and his BABIP is 251. So I'm wondering, is there a little bit of he was living so much in this tiny margin of error of the balls he puts in play have to go to the right spots to be hits. Now is it maybe teams are reading his defense better, like their defense is plotting out, we know where he's going to hit the ball, let's go over there so he can't there won't be singles anymore. They'll be out. So there won't be doubles. There'll be singles. Or maybe it's whatever margin of error he was getting when he actually did swing the bat and make contact. He isn't getting it enough to get in those like golden zones of where he was getting hits. I don't know. Maybe that's total bullshit. But
I think there's something to that. And I would say, I can think of two things right now. You move the left fielder in. We're going to take away the line drive base hit the opposite way. And you move the second baseman maybe like 2 steps to the right and you cover the hole. And you
What
just
does
got
that?
rid of a lot of singles that he could potentially hit. Now, the way you hit the ball hard and you're going to, more balls are going to land regardless. And that gets back to what I'm saying, where he needs to swing with more authority more often. And I know authority with him isn't much to begin with, but still, like 2-0 count, swing and swing hard if it's right there. And he hasn't been doing that. So I think
For
it's a little
anyone,
bit of both potentially.
for anyone watching on YouTube, I made a couple of faces there. Dansby Swanson just took a throw from the first baseman off the mouth.
ooh.
Yeah, it looks. I think he's bleeding from the lip. I don't know if he's gonna have to come out, but anyway. So sorry for the faces. I was paying attention. Actually, Lee, when you said that, my exact thought went. I remember back when BABIP was really starting to become like a stat that people like to cite. Tim Anderson was like the Greek god of BABIP, where every year it was 330, 340. Like his BABIP, he won batting titles, but his BABIP was much higher than the league average. And every year he would be put on these lists. And the other reason I know this is because Max Kepler was the exact opposite. Max Kepler had a very low BABIP. Anytime you'd be put on these lists, it has to come down. There's too many. It has to fall. It's not. It should not. This BABIP is not a predictive stat. It just is in the moment. Everyone should come back to league average or what their skill set is. But the way Tim Anderson played, it was line drive, no doubt line drive singles every time. And he did that for years until he didn't. And he fell off very fast. And I think that could be a really interesting comp for Kwan
I
on a
think
sudden drop off.
I think Kwan's thing is he was never getting high exit velos to begin with, but it dropped just a little bit. And so now he's not getting the little extra jump he needed in order to get. Like it's kind of been a conversation with one of the Tigers prospects, Bryce Rayner, because his BABIP is through the roof. Well, his BABIP is so high because his exit velos average like 105. So of course everything he hits is going to be his because he's just hitting it so hard. You know, but then there's the opposite of if you're hitting it so lightly to begin with, if you just shave off, 1 mile per hour off that exit velo, well, suddenly it's just a pop up instead of a bloop single.
The other thing I'd mention about that comp that doesn't, I think it's a decent comp, but I'm going to poke one hole in it. Tim Anderson's walk rate in his career was below 4%. He didn't walk, and he struck out a lot, 24%. So they're not the same player in that way. Kwan lends himself to more opportunity for hits just off the fact he puts the ball in play more often. but I get what you're going for. Like, I understand that there's the potential there that like this, and I think BABIP to a point is skill. Like, I think different guys have different BABIPs to a point, just based on how they hit the ball, their profile, and how hard they hit it. But
Right.
yeah, I could see where you're going for, but I don't think it's a perfect comparison.
No, I don't think it's perfect. I just, as Lee was saying, BABIP, I remember just thinking, oh, Tim Anderson. Tim Anderson. Like, that's
Yeah.
not good news for Kwon because it just, when he went, he went. I did also want to talk a little bit about, like, as far as like defensive positioning against Kwon. I don't think his spray chart is any different this year versus last. He's still hitting the ball in the same spot for years. So it's not like, why would they just change this year instead of the
Yeah,
last
that's
couple
what I
years?
was kind of thinking. Well, okay, he's been doing this since 2022. Why would it change now? But like, I was
Right.
just wondering if, okay, his exit velos dropped a little bit. He's not hitting the ball hard as much. Maybe that extra defensive positioning
That
is
could be.
just a margin. You know, he was, if he was working within such a small margin of error to begin with, that all the balls fall right in
That's
front of the defender, all the ball, you know, or the defender can't get to it fast enough, or it's just in the right spot. If he's not getting that anymore, then maybe it does influence things.
And that does kind of match my own eye test on him because I remember when it was probably like in May or something. It was early on in the season. I just remember the Twins played the Guardians, or maybe they played someone. And I just saw Kwon hit choppers to second and just pop ups the entire. And I watched them for like a week, and I didn't remember whether I said barrel or not. I think I might have said I don't think I've seen Kwon hit the ball hard once in this week. Turns out that was true unless I happened to watch that week. So that's interesting.
I'm gonna go find his barrel when we're done. I'm gonna go see what it was.
Go find it.
Uh,
Watch it. It was probably a line out to the third baseman.
Probably.
But also, I mean, if you want to talk about BABIP again, this year it's 251, which is below average. Maybe he's getting unlucky. Some of it. Maybe he's just getting unlucky. I mean,
True.
or it could just be a combination of all those factors, which is probably the most correct
You would,
answer.
if you're not hitting the ball with as much authority, you would expect the BABIP to go down though too. So
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's true.
I want to talk about something a little more. I'm depressed now. I want to talk about something more positive, and that's Chase DeWater, who I had a lot of thoughts on coming into this year that were all over the place. Some of it was positive. I was cautiously optimistic. I was really hoping they wouldn't have the Guardians wouldn't have him play center field. They haven't, thank goodness. He's been just fine and right. But what's really been more impressive is Chase DeLauder has been the best offensive player on this team this year. Slash line of 278, 345, 448. WRC plus 123 leads the team. This is a rookie, and he's one that has come up to the majors and taken everything in stride. He hasn't been perfect. There have been some holes. The biggest thing is he hit 5 home runs in his first 7 games. In the last
I remember
7
talking
games,
about that.
we did. We went on about that for a while. In the last 7 games before the break, he hit 4 home runs. In the 66 games between, he hit 2. And so that's a little weird. That could be health. This is a guy that, as I've spoken about, has battled injury in his short career, both in college and in the minors, and spent some time on the IL, as I referred to. He was one of the players that got hurt a few Saturdays back. And I think he might have been playing with something. And I think, clean bill of health, ability to hit the ball a little bit harder coming back from that injury. After starting the year fresh and feeling good at the beginning of the year and hitting home runs then too. But I also think that there's the potential here that this is just rookies making adjustments and having to adjust back to the way pitchers are pitching him and things of that nature. I think that's a possibility where, it's very impressive that he's been as good as he has so far. But you have to remember, this is a guy that's played less than 80 major league games at this point. And so there's going to be some waxing and waning. The fact that he could have a downturn like that and still be the best hitter on this team, still almost like 450, have a 123 WRC plus, is incredibly impressive. And it lends to the question of what does next year look like, or the year after that, in terms of this could be a middle of the order hitter for the Guardians for many years. And so before I get too far out of my skis on that, I'm just looking for a good second half. Try to repeat what you did, maybe a little bit more consistent with the long ball because he's got it in his potential. He hits the ball hard. He's another guy, and I don't know if this is just in my head now with Quan, but I also think maybe there was a little bit of just wanting to put the ball in play at times. He doesn't view himself as a power hitter. He views himself as a hitter. And so swing the bat with authority, Chase. Like, do that. You're good at it. You can hit the ball a really long way. And so if he does those things, not only could he be very dangerous in the second half, but even beyond that.
I guess
How's his defense been? Because I know there was a conversation about it because of the whole center field thing from last year, but he's playing mostly right? Or DHing some?
DH in right field, mostly right field. And I'm glad Eric pulled it up because I didn't bother looking at the defensive stats when I did my write up on him. But yeah, he's been adequate. He's been a perfectly adequate right fielder, which is what you would expect. He's got a above average arm, so he's fine in right field. He makes all the plays you would expect him to make. He hasn't really embarrassed himself.
He's flat and outs above average in arm value.
So he's fine. I'm completely comfortable with him out in right field day in, day out, especially if he's gonna hit the way he has. But even if he hadn't, he's fine. I think that was that playoff game. They stuck him in center field for the first game of his career in an elimination game, and the first ball hit to him. The first ball he's ever probably seen with a third deck, and it didn't go so well. And my concern was legitimately that they were going to stick him in center field because there's still a gaping hole in center field on this team potentially. We're going to talk about that in a second. But they haven't. He is much better suited. He's in the right role in right field, I feel like.
At this point, I just don't think you mess with it. Like he has an 800 OPS. It's 793. He has an 800 OPS. He's fine in right field. Let him just get comfortable in right field, and then because Cleveland has been screaming for a productive corner outfield bat for as long as I can remember, and I literally cannot remember the last productive corner outfielder they've had because it's just been a churn and burn.
Michael Brantley.
Which is 2010? Like that's
close sooner than that, maybe like 18. But yeah,
was it really? I remember him in the Metrodome.
That was early Michael Brantley.
Okay, so he wasn't around that long. Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Except the Tigers in third base. We haven't had a third baseman since Brandon Inge.
Yeah, since Miggy.
Right, Miggy for those 2 years where he played third base.
Right. The Twins and shortstop, let me tell you, they've burned some shortstops in my lifetime. Jesus Christ. Anyway, this is about Chase Stillwater. I think just going back to the home runs thing, I would be more encouraged that he's still. I'm going to guess before he had this recent flare of home runs, he had a 400 slugging percentage. He has 16 doubles. Maybe he just has a very specific zone that he gets home runs and they didn't know it the first week of the season and they just hit it. Maybe he just has been expanding a little bit, but he held his head above water without hitting home runs, so that should be, if anything, much more encouraging.
He takes his walks. He doesn't strike out a lot. He does a lot of things that will allow him, even when he's not hitting the ball over the fence, to still be obviously, the way the first half has gone. But he still does other things to be a productive player offensively. So even if he goes through a slump in terms of power, I'm not that concerned.
That was a big thing for me when he was hitting home runs, but he was only hitting home runs. I think I've said it before. That's always my big concern is when a player is hitting home runs, that's great, but what happens when he stops hitting home runs? And no, he was hitting singles and doubles, and that's right. Now he's back to hitting home runs. So,
with that said, I mean, he's the best offensive outfielder the Guardians have had recently, like Eric was saying a moment ago. This team still hasn't figured out entirely center field, which was something that coming into the year was a question mark. There was talk of moving Stephen Kwan to center. That happened. He plays there in a part-time basis. I think he has the most games appeared in center field for the team this year. But he's played there. Daniel Schneeman's played there. Petey Halpin has played there. Stuart Fairchild, when he was on the roster, he got DFA'd recently. He played some center field. Well, more recently, Khalil Watson has had some appearances out there, another rookie. But that if this team wants to progress into the playoffs and be successful in the playoffs, they need to figure out center field or outfield in general, and then move Quan to center. That's an option too. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time. We're going to talk about the trade deadline, I'm sure, in the next couple of weeks. But just three names that I think are interesting that could be potentially, um, or two names rather, that could be interesting to bring in. One is Taylor Ward from Baltimore, left fielder, right-handed hitter. Guardians have been devoid of right-handed hitting outfielders for quite some time. The issue with Ward is his power has completely become zapped this year. I think he only has 6 home runs. And so somebody who's good for 20 in the past hasn't really shown the power potential that he has. Although, as you can see, the OPS plus is still pretty good. He would still fit nicely. I wouldn't turn him away. The other one that I'm really interested in and enthused about, if they could pry him away from St. Louis, which I don't know what St. Louis is going to do. They're still in the hunt, but this guy's been in trade talks before but got injured. Eric got it. Lars Nootbaar. I think Lars Nootbaar would look really interesting in the Guardians lineup. He could play all 3 outfield spots. He lost the back half of last year and the front half of this year to surgery. He had, I think, surgery on both of his heels, but he's got a clean bill of health. He's got a 121 OPS plus in 32 games this year. Career average is 243. On a 150 game basis, he's good for 24 doubles and 16 home runs. You can expect that to go up a little bit with a clean bill of health, call it 25 and 20. And he's got a great arm. Guardians love outfield arms. So he fits in that regard. And he's got a little bit of speed. I think adding him in left and then moving Quan to center would be a really interesting move. He could hit in the middle of the order. And it feels like he's also got some team control left. So this isn't something where he'd necessarily be a rental. It's the kind of move the Guardians would look to make. And I'd be really curious to see if it's something they could pull off, given the circumstances surrounding St. Louis right now as well.
I know because he played for the Chinese Taipei for the WBC, didn't he?
He played for Japan.
Was that Japan?
He's
Yeah.
super popular over there too. He's
He
in
has
ads
the-
for them and everything.
He has the best name in baseball. Lars Taylor Tatsui Nootbaar. That's just wonderful. There's no point to that. There's nothing to analyze there. I just really love his middle name is Taylor Tatsui.
So
He seems like a very Guardians. I thought his defense would be better, but he seems like a very Guardians player.
His name is a Star Wars name.
It's true. In which case, it might be a trap. No, just dead silence.
I got
Not
it.
even. I understand Lee is like turning off my dad humor because I pick on her so much, but I was
I
expecting.
just ignore it. I don't. It's not
me a
worth
second.
giving you
I
the
was
attention.
a polite smile is all I was looking for there, and didn't. Nope, just nothing. Okay, I'll shut up now.
quick hits on the offense. Jose Ramirez was having a bit of a down year before getting injured. Now, down year for him. He was still a productive player, and they're going to need him in the second half. We've spoken on previous episodes. The one guy who's an outlier in terms of having hamate bone surgery is Jose Ramirez. He came back from when he had the other hamate bone removed in 2018 and slugged like 700 in August and September. I'm not saying he's going to do that, but I do think it's reasonable to think he can kind of come back and be close to himself, and they're going to need him to be close to himself. I want to shout out Angel Martinez, who was leading this team in slugging before he got injured. He's one of, I think, the 3 or 4 players that have 10 home runs on this team. He's having a good season, and he could be a contributing player moving forward as well. He fits in somewhere in that outfield as well. I don't know if that he'll play there every single day, but coming back, looking forward to having him back. And hopefully, like I said, he's going on a rehab assignment starting tomorrow. It would be a boost to get him back in the lineup here in the next week or so. Kyle Manzardo has not had a great year. They were really hoping for him to build off the 27 home runs he had last year, and it just hasn't happened. And I don't entirely know why, but he has struggled with breaking pitches. And then off of that, fastballs up. So he's getting killed on fastball up, curveball slider down over and over and over again. And, you would hope that he's able to make an adjustment on that. He's going to need to in order to continue to hit in the middle of the order for this team. Otherwise, I don't know kind of what Ralphie Velasquez in the Guardians farm system is not ready, but he could be playing first base in the near future.
Well,
When I say near future, I mean next year or so. If
to
things
go
kind of
off
keep
of
going
that,
the
what
way they
is
are with
do you know off the top of your head what Velasquez is doing in AAA?
I don't. I know when he first got up, he struggled a little bit, but I don't know that I'm not sure if that's continued or not since, to
So
be
to
fair.
me, and I, if the Tigers or sorry, if the Guardians go after Taylor Ward or Newt Bar, that's fine. To me, it is they are screaming they need a first base DH. Between Hoskins and Manzardo, they have like a combined like 90 OPS plus, and
Yeah.
in those two spots, to be a 10% below a league average hitter when that's probably an average DH first base is probably 110 OPS plus. That's really bad. Like I don't need to like hon on
Yeah.
it for too much, but it just screams to me that's going to be the most affordable thing you can get at the deadline outside of a reliever. I shouldn't say elite relievers go for a ridiculous bounty, but like sixth or seventh inning guys
Yeah.
flip. The tier above that you can get a pretty good bat without costing a whole lot of prospects. They need to get a bat or screw it. If Velasquez has had a good 3 weeks, if he can beat a 90 OPS plus, I know they just have Manzardo. They should have no reason to keep playing
Hoskins.
Hoskins. Like they shouldn't care about Reese Hoskins playing at this point. I would be interested in making a change there. Like that would be my priority going into this deadline.
I gotta
Ralphie
gently
Velez-
use Spencer Torkelson with a 98 OPS plus.
Still 7% better, and he can be streaky. At least I don't know.
He had 30 home runs.
Ralphie Velasquez, 777 OPS in AAA in 40 games. So pretty good. Not tearing the cover off the ball, but productive.
How's
You
their
know,
AAA environment? Is it
it's offensively oriented.
okay? Are they the same league as the Saints?
I think so. I'm not positive.
I can't remember. What's their AAA team again?
Columbus, the Clippers,
Yes,
international
they
league.
play. They play. Yeah. Okay, good.
So yeah, and to your point, while I prefer to improve the outfield, that would be my first goal. Add offense. Like you can mix and match DHs, and that'd be fine too. If you think you have an opportunity to get somebody else because it's good value or whatever instead, that's fine. My preference would be figure out left field, center field, and go from there. And then lastly, Travis Bazzana is the last player I just wanted to hit on real quick. I mean, from being called up in May to being an all-star in July is incredibly impressive. Worth 1.1 baseball reference WAR in just a little bit of time he's been up. I will say the defense has left something to be desired. If I'm being honest, he hasn't been a great deal. He's not Juan Brito levels of bad, but there's room for improvement there is the nice way I'll put it. But he hit at the top of the order, provided a spark. He's about a league average OPS plus right now, 103, just above. To get that out of another rookie, again, you're getting positive production from rookies that bodes really well, not just for this year, but for the future. And Bazzana's been a little bit more up and down than DeWater. He's had some kind of lower, some low lights offensively.
Lower
But
lows, for them.
yeah, lower lows, more offers, that kind of thing. But it's still trending the right direction. And it's better second base production that you'd be getting otherwise as well. So I think, this is a good building spot for him. It's been a good couple of months, and we'll kind of see what happens. When I was talking about like Quan, things are getting bluer. Nothing's getting bluer here. Everything is just kind of neutral, and Bazzana can continue to contribute, and I think it'll be just fine.
Do they
Bazzana-
have?
Sorry.
Bazzana's only played second base, right? Throughout the minors, he's only been the same position.
Yes.
Shoot, I was hoping he played a little bit of left field because then I could say like just maybe
They-
scoot.
they thought about that when they first drafted him, maybe moving him to the outfield, and they decided against it. I don't know what kind of went into that decision making, but the choice was made that we weren't going to mess with Pisano's positioning in the field.
For his defense, is he supposed to be like average defense, above average? Like, where is he slotted to?
Average. He was never kind of touted as like some defensive wizard at second base. It was more like, yeah, that's probably the right spot for him. Like
Okay.
that was kind
I didn't
of more
know.
of
I was just
the
curious
vibe
how
than
off,
anything.
I was just curious how off from like his projected has he been? Like,
He's, I will say this, and I feel like I'm kind of lambasting the guy, and I don't mean to, but he is worse defensively than I expected him to be. He has misplayed more balls than I had expected him to have at this point. Um, Again, I think the guy is such a hard worker and such a baseball junkie. I think these are things that with time he's going to get better at. The guy's still only 23 or whatever, however old he is. But, and again, rookie played like 50 games or whatever it is in the majors. There's room for improvement here. And so, uh, for what we're getting to this point, I feel pretty good about it, all things considered. But that there is the kind of the back end of that statement that is he does have to improve too. That's the offense. I'm going to talk about the pitchers now. And just like I did with the offense, I'll start with some stats. Some main takeaways here. Overall, for the entirety of the pitching staff, both the bullpen and the starting rotation, they are seventh in expected FIP. So that's the stat I'm using in this case to kind of project how good the pitching has been. They've been seventh best in the league. The starters and the bullpen, everybody in general, this pitching staff are strikeout machines. Number one in K rate for the bullpen, fourth in K rate for the starting rotation. They punch out a lot of batters. On the flip side, if there's an Achilles heel to this pitching staff, they were 18th in home run per nine. They've allowed more long balls than I think anybody expected them to. Not awful. That's still second, third of the league, but a little bit worse than you would have expected.
Is that percentage or per nine?
Per nine.
Really? It's only 1.2 according to Baseball Reference. I thought that'd be higher. Maybe I just need to recalibrate my thoughts on that.
They're a little bit off the median, 15th being the median. And then to lend more credence to that, they're 21st in barrel rate allowed. So if anything, they're getting a little bit lucky. They've had a lot of balls hit hard.
Oh, that's not good.
I mean, we're talking about 18th versus 21st. It's not
Fair
like I literally mean a little bit lucky as opposed to that being a euphemism. As far as kind of getting into the units here, I will say a lot of those numbers, especially the home run numbers, are colored by the fact that the bullpen was kind of rickety out of the gate. Early in the year, they were kind of figuring some things out. Connor Brogdon was part of this bullpen at one point, and he wasn't very good. He's the name that comes to mind. Peyton Paulette, who we'll talk about in a minute, was in this bullpen, and he honestly wasn't very good. And those things have kind of worked themselves out. And Stephen Vogt, I think, feels a lot more comfortable today than he did in April with kind of who his kind of six guys he can depend on are in the roles they're in a little bit more. To that point, that home run rate, that home run per nine for the bullpen, they're seventh in home run per nine since May 15th. So noticeably better. And there are a few pitchers in particular I want to highlight. The first of it, which is obviously Cade Smith, who arguably the best closer in the sport this year. I do think it's an argument. I don't think it's definite. I think you could put up a bunch of guys, but he's in that running. 2.84 ERA, 2.24 FIP, 11 walks over the course of the season, 28 saves, 94 percentile whiff rate, 98 percentile K rate. So when I talk about punching a bunch of guys out, Cade Smith is at the top of that list. Still has great extension on his pitches, big guy, imposing, throws hard, has worked both a slider and a splitter in. Splitter lately has been really good, and he got Bryce Harper's endorsement on Tuesday. So I don't think I need to say any more than that. But he has done a great job of adjusting into this closer role, which wasn't his role 12 months ago. About this time last year, he was thrust into this role unexpectedly, and he's now leading the league in saves. So he's done excellently, and the bullpen around him is kind of molded and changed. And one of the main guys that have been instrumental to that change is a reliever that the Guardians spent $1 million on this offseason. And man, was it $1 million really well spent. Colin Holderman. Here's the best way I can describe how Colin Holderman has done this year. Back in March, Colin Holderman allowed a 2-run home run to Luke Raley the first weekend of the season in Seattle. He hasn't allowed a home run since. That's it. 178 ERA, 307 expected ERA, so a little bit higher, but still good. 39 Ks and just 1 home run allowed in 35 1/3 innings. Again, this is somebody that the Guardians, I don't want to say bought a flyer on because I think they expected decent things from him.
Well, it was $1 million. It was a major league flyer, but it was a flyer.
It was a major league flyer. I think what I'm more trying to say is I think they thought Colin Holderman would be somebody that would pitch in their bullpen, maybe be on the B team that pitches when they're losing, and keeps them in games. No, Colin Holderman might be in the Cade Smith fireman role in the second half because he's been that good, or he might pitch the 7th inning. He has been excellent, and it's just another in a long line of reclamation projects that have gone really well for this organization in the bullpen.
And not for nothing, they have him for like 2 more years. Should they want 3 more years? Should they want him?
Yeah, he'll be ARB eligible, and so they can hold on to him moving forward.
I do think it's because he was with the Pirates last year, correct?
Yes.
I wonder if Derek Shelton, sitting in the Twins dugout, saw Colin Holderman and remembers this Colin Holderman from 2025. And then flips over to this year's Savant Page is like, son of a bitch.
My understanding is Holderman was pitching hurt in 25, and I think that has a lot to do with how that looked in 2025.
That is fair.
But I think you give the Guardians some credit, 1, for saying yes and bringing him in, and 2, for fostering him a little bit. Somewhere in the middle, because I've talked about 2 really good relievers. I'll talk about Parker Messick next. We'll go there. We'll go starting rotation. So Parker Messick, I probably should have let off with him as the starting pitcher, but he's the one starter I wanted to refer to here. All-star Parker Messick. If you would have told me that last August when he made his debut, I would have lost my mind. I would have thought you were crazy. I would have also been 2 big thumbs up the way that Eric just had. I did not expect this. And Messick had a good end at 25. Like, he was impressive, but he's been even more impressive. He's thrown 112 innings, 273 ERA, 324 expected. His 4-seam fastball has the 3rd highest run value of any 4-seamer in the sport. The only better 4-seamers are Jacob Misiorowski and Justin Robleski with the Dodgers. That's it. And then it's Parker Messick. And he's gotten fat. I feel like he's throwing harder as the season's gone on as well. So he continues to improve. And, I mean, another guy that looked excellent, like I said, in the All-Star game the other day. And I don't know. It's hard for me to say, well, this is going to continue on. He wasn't projected to be this good of a starting pitcher, quite frankly. But right now, he's the staff ace. And
do you know? Are they just? I know you're just because like I'm looking with Savant. You can't just look at the sliders. So like the sliders are a good starting point. You see his fastball run value, like Dan said, best in the sport, and then breaking ball and off speed are just terrible. So right now he is a single pitch pitcher, which makes you wonder, like, well, what does he really throw? He's thrown like 6 different pitches. Is he just experimenting? He has the 4-seamer he throws 34% of the time. And then is he just like inventing a pitch? Is he playing with grips every other game? Because that seems like a lot for a guy who is not doing well with breaking balls, for them not just to cue in and say, throw this and that's it.
Well, I will say this. He is, fastball heavy, but it's 3 different kinds of fastball. Corey Kluber made a life out of throwing two seamers back door and front door, throwing cutters back door and front door. And that worked out really nicely for him. Now, eventually Kluber also kind of, fleshed out a slider and some other pitches, but this is a really good start. This is a really good basis. I get what you're going for, Eric, but one, you can live off that for a while. And then his changeup was actually supposed to be his best pitch coming out of the minors. I think he had a 60 rated changeup based on kind of the projections. So
Boy.
I think this is replicable. It's just a matter of, I don't know if he'll throw a 270 ERA for his entire career, but I think he's here to stay at the very least. He's a number 2 at least moving forward. And
Just looking at, and I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, but
It's okay,
I'm going
keep
to
going.
be fast. This is someone that I'm probably going to do a deep dive after, because it's fascinating. His expecting batting average is 165. His expected slug is 261 on this four-seamer.
Look, he throws it down the pipe, and they're still not hitting this thing.
Oh, you can do the Savant added the thing where you can see how much batters are missing and timing wise. I bet you can look up how much they're missing Parker Messick's fastball and exactly where and stuff. You can play around with that later, but you can look up how they're missing it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll show me how to do that later, because honestly, his sinker's catching a lot of the plate. His cutters, that's where you want a cutter, on the edge of the zone. It's just, I'm fascinated that he's basically, when they talk about a challenge pitch, you can't get more challenge than basically middle or up in the zone.
I'd be curious of what his spin is, what his spin rate is. My guess is that pitchers are getting on batters faster than they expect him to. He's probably got good carry. The Guardians, I shouldn't say this because I didn't test it up front, but the Guardians are big about extension in terms of their pitchers. So I don't know that that's part of Messick's game, considering he's 6 foot, but my guess is that he's got a lot of deception going on. And like I said, he's throwing harder as the season's going on as well. But even if he's not this level of good, I feel like the Guardians have built a nice ensemble cast of starting pitching. Between Messick and Bybee and Gavin Williams and Slade Ciccone, even, who I've been hard on but is having a decent year, and oh god, I'm blanking on our 5th starter right now.
It's on the screen.
I said Slade. But anyway, between the group of them, anybody out there can go out there and give you 6 or 7 on a given night and do it successfully. Cantillo is the other guy. My bad. Anybody can be
Cantillo.
Either way, anybody can be that level of effective on a given night, and so they don't need Messick to be some kind of high-level ace, because there's not really a weak point in that starting rotation. And so I feel very good about going into a playoff series. And one, you're going to be able to pick any 3 of those guys that you want. It's probably going to be Messick, Bybee, and Williams. But also, you're going to be able to get length out of some other guys potentially too, and that's to bode well in a series. You might need that.
The big thing for playoff is just the offense. That's the only thing that's really holding.
I'm getting ahead of myself even talking about the playoffs, but you get my point.
For Messick, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here. To me, there's a very clear runner-up of Rookie of the Year at the end of the year, and that's going to be Parker Messick, I think. If it wasn't for someone else in this division, he would be a favorite. He would be the favorite.
I think we'll see what happens with Murakami.
Yeah.
I think this is a very heavy Rookie of the Year class. A very good one, and it all happens to be in our division, which is weird.
Yeah.
But Messick's, he's had a great year, and I think he'll be on the ballots for sure.
I mean, right as it stands right now, to me, Parker Messick is the clear second best rookie in the league.
Well, I appreciate that. 2 guys I want to hit on real quick. I mentioned Peyton Paulette. He was a Rule 5 guy that the Guardians grabbed this winter. It didn't work out. 5.23 ERA, 5.46 expected ERA. He walked 1 in every 6 batters he faced. They shipped him back to Chicago. By the way, I predicted that was going to happen, that he wouldn't make it through the year with the Guardians. Like I said, they found other options that they felt better about, and moving on. And then I want to acknowledge Tim Herron's weird season, which turned into the season of nightmares last week before the break. 32 and a third innings, 27 Ks, 19 walks, 5.17 FIP, but 3.06 ERA. He has way outperformed his FIP because he's done a great job of limiting hard contact. He has 93 percentile expected batting average against, 90th percentile for exit velo. He has avoided barrels. Like, he has done a good job of, but he's also walked the world. And so I don't know what to make of him. And the one Achilles heel this team might have from the bullpen side of things is now he got injured. He had a line drive hit off of his elbow, his pitching elbow, before the break, and he's on the IL. So even a weird version of Tim Herron isn't necessarily going to be available for a while. And the other lefty in this bullpen is Eric Sabrowski. Sabrowski was awesome at the start of the year. He has still struck out 41% of the batters he's faced this year.
Yeah.
But he went on the IL with elbow inflammation in late May. In the 10 appearances he's made since he came back, he's thrown 6 1/3. He's allowed 7 earned runs, 9 Ks, 7 walks. Walks have always been an issue with him, and they're back with a vengeance. And if Sabrowski, I don't need him to be as effective as he was in the first 6 weeks when he was spectacular and looked like he could be a closer in his own right. But he needs to be better than he is now, because if not, this team doesn't really have a left-handed reliever to go to if Herron is being both weird and on the IL, and Sabrowski is back to really struggling with his command. So that's something to look out for. I still feel pretty good about this bullpen. I think they got a lot of righties between Holderman and Smith and Gaddis, who I haven't even mentioned, who could probably work around that and face lefties anyway. But it is something to keep an eye on.
I like
To
that
conclude, go
Sabrowski's
ahead.
nickname on Baseball References, the Big Sabrowski, which is very entertaining to me.
I like that. That's awesome.
Which,
Go ahead.
no, it's a dumb joke, so just go on. We've
To conclude,
poo-pooed on my dad jokes enough.
the Guardians are right in the hunt for the division. They're right in the hunt for the playoffs in an American League that is wide open. They're going to hopefully get healthier. They have been what I had hoped they'd be since the injury, since Bloody Saturday. They've gone 12-13. They've been just around 500. The White Sox have not run away with this division. And while I think that's a really talented, impressive offense over there on the south side, I don't think they're going to run away with this thing. And I think they might be young and dumb enough to kind of fumble down the stretch. The division is winnable. No one's dominant in the AL. There is opportunity here. And my bigger concern is that so many teams are going to still feel like they're in it too because of the way the AL is going, that they're not going to be able to make a move at the deadline that really moves the needle.
Or they'd have to overpay.
Or they'll have to. The Cardinals don't want to trade Newt Barr.
Meanwhile,
Taylor Ward is too expensive because every team wants a piece of that. They need to get better offensively, though. They need an outfielder in particular. They're dead last in WRC for left field. They're second last for center field. They have not been good in defensively in left field either. They need to figure that out. That being said, I think 85 wins could win this division, and I feel like that's what they're headed for. Simultaneously, if they trade for Taylor Ward or Lars Nootbaar or somebody of that nature, they could have 87 wins, and I could feel even a little bit better about that. All that said, I've talked about potentially this being a special October and this being an opportunity to kind of take the American League or get deeper into the playoffs than they have in the last 2 years. I cannot in good conscience at this point in time, even with an addition, say that's going to happen. I think this team is still just too offensively devoid. The hope is that you get Bill Lauder and Bazana and Angel Martinez and a couple other players to take another step forward. And now we're talking about that kind of thing in 2027. But at this point in time, gun to my head, this is not the year for that. I still want them to see this out, make it to October, but those are not my expectations at this time. Let's just worry about making the playoffs and make a trade at the deadline and see kind of where it shakes out.
I think if you added if you had 2 more offensive pieces, maybe an outfielder and maybe a utility for infield or something, that you could say, I feel really good about this team between the pitching staff is top tier, the bullpen's good. But as the team stands right now, I think the most likely outcome is they get swept by the Yankees in the wild card round. they have to make a move. They have to make an impact move in order to have any hope of advancing further into the playoffs.
And I agree with Dan, and I feel like you're more conservative than I am when it comes to like you need to when I mean like to go all in, like to be aggressive. Like I feel like I would if we're both GMs, I would be the more aggressive GM and you would be the one to kind of hold. I'm not saying they're bad decisions, but like
Yeah.
that's just my thought. Nobody if there's a year the Cleveland went on a deep playoff run last year. There's no reason that they can't make a deep playoff run this year. Go get a bat. Go get two impact bats and like make a trade. You might not I don't want to say like might regret, but like go
Overpay.
make an upside
Be
trade.
okay overpaying.
Like do an overpay because the AL is the most winnable it's going to be. In I mean maybe next year this continues and this is just a trend for a while, but you have an opportunity now. I'd say the same thing for the White Sox, and I'm probably going to say the same thing about the Twins here in a couple of minutes. The red carpet is laid out for someone, and it's almost like there's 6 teams that are just tripping over themselves to walk down the damn thing. And someone has to get to October to face the Dodgers. And it only takes 4 bad games from the Dodgers for someone to squeak out a World Series when they probably don't deserve it. Why can't that be the Guardians? Why can't that be the White Sox? Why can't that be a team nobody is expecting to be? Go do it.
Before Dan responds, I just want to say you said the Guardians went on a deep playoff run last year. I didn't realize losing in the wild card round
no,
was
that's fair.
a deep
I was
playoff.
thinking the year before when they went to the ALCS. I'm very sorry, Lee. I'm
I had to
sorry.
give my moment.
That is,
That's okay.
I'm 100%.
So, and I think there's merit to that, Eric. My trepidation would be trepidation's not the right word. My calculated analysis of that would be I like my chances a lot more when some of these young guys that have shown some promise maybe have another year or two under their belt and have really proven it, or maybe even better than they are today. And now we can really take a swing at something because I don't need those prospects as much right now because I've got these guys that have proven themselves a little bit more. And also we're just our baseline is higher. And so that would be my response to that. And I'm not saying they should sit on their hands and not do anything because I don't think that's true at all. But I don't know. I get you can't control what the rest of the league is doing and how the rest of the AL is performing. But to me, you can control your own 26. And that's how I would handle that. And I would put the Guardians up against anybody if they can get to that point. But they got to get to that point first.
Right. And there's still 65 games. Like it's what 70% of the season's gone already.
Yeah.
Like you really don't have that much. So maybe not 70, 65, 6, whatever. Most of the season is gone though. I don't know. The Guardians have been flirting with a World Series.
My whole life.
The 90s, they always, like once a decade, they go on a deep run and just, propose to the girl finally, Cleveland. Like propose and have her say yes finally. Like I respect you. I want that to happen to you. I want that to happen to the Twins first. And I know Lee wants to like slap the ring out of your hand, but like
no, the Guardians. That's where I stand. The Guardians can win one because it's been like 80 years, but they had to do it after the Tigers. That's my only.
There you go.
Lee, is it safe to say you will be happy for Dan, but you will be like angry at
yes.
Otherwise, okay.
Yes, it has to come after the Tigers. That's my only stipulation.
Gonna be waiting a while then.
Exactly. Yeah, you'll have to wait a while. Don't remind me.
I haven't been showing it, but on Baseball Savant, there's an article right now that says like, there's one other Tigers pitcher that's going to be active during the day, and it's Casey Mize. So like,
honestly, I think later.
Any other thoughts on the Guardians?
I think I've taken enough of everybody's time.
We are an hour and 15 in now, which is...
You did an hour, which is about what you did for the season preview, so that's about
I did longer than an hour for the season preview. This is about what I thought it would come out to, so I appreciate everybody's questions and commentary because that sure helps. So thank you guys.
I was about to say, if we wanted you to just get through with it, we would just like
Yeah.
cut our mics and not do it, not engage at all.
Anybody listening out there, if I didn't mention somebody you wanted me to mention, if I didn't talk about somebody you think is terrible, send me your hate mail. Remind me, it's fine. But I wanted to hit on kind of the finer points there, and I think we got through them.
Just for a score check, the White Sox are still pummeling the Blue Jays 8-4. The Twins are up 4-1, and the 4-1 against the Cubs, and the Royals are down 1 to the Padres, 2-1 in the fifth inning. God, that's tiny font. Yes, fifth inning. Detroit's in the warm up against the Angels, and I just watched the Angels. They ain't good.
Hey, we lost the series to them in May, so anything can happen.
And it took 16 IL stints for you to be worse than the Angels.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Angels have gotten any better than that. They're pretty sad. So
we got my boy Troy Melton pitching today.
There you go.
He grew up an Angels fan. He's from Anaheim.
When does Scooble make it? Do they have him scheduled yet?
I think it's tomorrow.
So it's 3 starts before the deadline?
Yeah, probably.
2 or 3 starts? Okay. I don't want to say they're big ones, but like there will be scouts in attendance in Detroit.
What?
Or wherever Detroit is playing.
We're going to keep him. We're going to sign him. He's going to get Tiger for life. I don't know what you're talking about.
Honestly, I'm cheering for that because I not famously, but I said all last year I think the Tigers will re-sign or extend Tarik Skubal, and I have been proven wrong on pretty much every move the Tigers have made since then. Yeah. If I can get this one though, that's my big fish. Like that's the Moby Dick. I found
it's not happening. I can tell you that. It's
not happening. But if it does, Lee, I'll celebrate with you, and we'll do an emergency podcast, and you can recant all of the slander against Tarik.
I can take back every negative thing I ever said. Until then, I'm going to be a hater. So
that's fine. You do you.
I will.
So I'm going to start off with the Twins, who I think we can all reasonably say we all thought would be contenders and running away with the division at this point, right? We all believe that at the start of the year because they came off so impressively after the fire sale last year where they were probably the worst team in baseball. And the only reason they didn't finish 5th in the division is because the White Sox were pretty bad to start the season. So the Twins have had an off season. It's been turbulent, I will say. They got new ownership. They got rid of their president of baseball ops, Derek Falvey, a month before spring training.
I almost forgot about that.
Yeah. Who, by the way, like the Twins are on a little bit of a run. There is like a little bit of like, if the Twins pull off a miracle season, does Derek Falvey still get a World Series ring? Because like he built this roster. Like it was he.
Dude, 5 years later, Tigers fans are still talking about Al Avila and whether or not he deserves credit for building this roster. So don't worry, that conversation is never going to end for you.
God, I hope it does. Or at least I'm just going to mute the people that bring it up. So the Twins being at least semi-competitive this year, they're a game under 500. They're leading against the Cubs right now. Tom Pohlad, who was the new owner who came in December, kept just saying, we're going to compete, we're going to be good. And I have no doubt he believed that and that the Twins' internal projections had them being very good. But the rest of baseball was skeptical at best. And the Twins have more or less been an adequate team. I hesitate to say competitive, but they're a game under 500, and I think they're like 2 games out of the playoff spot. So the only reason I'm going on about Tom Pohlad is he just had a brunch with some beat reporters, and he had some quotes, including, quote, "We have to fucking win." Which, okay, Tom, that's great. Going inside his quotes, though, as a fan who has been dealing with the Pohlad family, who was, I think, the third or fourth longest tenured ownership in baseball. It's like Reinsdorf, Steinbrenner, and then I honestly can't remember the other two, but I think there's someone who's owned a little bit longer. We've been dealing with this family since 1984, and they have let the fan base down much more than they have given us hope. So for him to come in, he's been raising some promises. So including we have to fucking win. He basically says, where is it? We might have a quote. We might have a magical year this year, but $100 million payroll is not going to get the job done trying to accomplish the kinds of things that we want to accomplish. We've got to be competitive consistently. That is the baseline. And then when we've got to be willing to make investments and make bold moves that allow us to be successful in the playoffs. Amen, brother.
Hold on.
I have questions about the guy in charge of the payroll.
Yes,
Saying
thank you.
we need to give more money.
But
Isn't that
$100 million payroll isn't going to do it. Well, gee, Tom, somebody should talk to the guy who sets the budget.
We're all trying to find the one who did this.
Thank you. So Tom came into December. But what I also just said, I can believe the Pohlads have their fingers in a lot. Like, they literally produce movies. They're in real estate. They own the Twins. They're big whatever. Banking, blah, 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 blah. I believe Tom Pohlad, who has been working in the other business, supposedly the more successful business ventures in the Twins, in the Pohlad portfolio, he has been kind of the savior of projects. He's been brought in and he's been the cleaner and he's made things better. All of that. With that said, the Twins have been in your family for 40 years, which I believe is most, if not all, of his lifetime. You weren't dropped in by a stork on December when you were appointed the team's owner, or like the presiding, whatever they want to call his title is. It's the family, but he's the one that's the representative. From December until spring training, they signed Josh Bell, which actually, I take that back. I think Josh Bell signed before then. It was Victor Caratini and Taylor Rogers. A combined this year's total payroll is like less than $10 million. Taylor Rogers signed for $2 million. Caratini signed a 2-year deal, basically $6.5 million apiece. So why didn't you sign anyone to go? He would counter that they were in the Framber Valdez case. Okay. When you say you were in it, you were competitive, and this is where it gets kind of like grinding in Minnesota eyes, is Minnesota has been left at the altar a lot for free agents. And one thing that does not go well with the fan base to say is, we were really competitive with the Framber or with X, free agent contract, but they just decided to go somewhere else. When they're not going to tell you what they offered versus what they signed for. So, what? Detroit signed Framber for 3 years, $138 million, something like that. If the Twins came in with a 1-year, $45 million deal, that's not that competitive. Detroit clearly had the better offer, but they're not going to disclose that. So
it's like what the Pirates did this offseason. It said, well, we were talking with Kyle Schwarber. And it's like, Oh, I'm sure you were talking. You sent him one email with the low ball offer and then ended the conversation.
So I will say he has been making these type of quotes that we have to win, that the payroll has been too low. He's even said that the 2023 payroll / was a mistake. All of these. He has said a lot of things that ring very true to Twins fans. But he hasn't done a lot of action to change that perception. Now, to be fair, he came in December. A lot of free agents were already signed. It was basically Framber Valdez and like rotation and relievers. However, the bullpen, which we're going to talk about quite a bit, has been god-awful. So anyway, I'm glad he said it. He has recognized the problem. But we have a trade deadline in a couple of weeks. And if you do nothing, the fan base is going to have an outsized reaction that I don't think he is prepared for, because we have heard this from 4 generations of Pohlad. Sorry, 3 generations of Pohlad, but the second brother of this current generation. So take that with what you will. So what I will say, and I'm going to do one more quote from this brunch, because I do think, in general, I think Tom is legitimately trying to win fans back. Basically by acknowledging that his family has screwed up this situation. He has given away probably 30 to 50,000 tickets for free for fans just to come into the stadium and just watch. And and things like that. One thing that he needed to do, and this is where like I don't think it's like a shock to anyone. I have a strong connection to Buxton because he has been like such an incredible player when he's on the field. He's also been tremendously loyal. And I needed him to say something about Byron Buxton since he's been with the Twins. So he just said, quote, "I've had a fair amount of talk or our conversation with Byron over the course of the year. And I think we're really just lucky to have a player of his talent that is committed to this team, particularly when in recent years, I don't know that we have fully earned that level of loyalty and commitment. And we're going to show him that same level of loyalty and commitment going forward." 100% great quote. I love that. Because you are acknowledging that Byron has done more than you have to say that you love the Twins more than your family has shown that they love the Twins. Because right now it just perceives, and this is the truth, I'm not stupid, that you only love the Twins because when you sell them, you're going to sell them for basically $2 billion. I'm going to guess that quote meant a lot to Byron Buxton himself, who has basically been begging this front office and this team to say that, when he has been very public in his and steadfast. I'm not going anywhere. I love it here. My kids were born here. I'm comfortable here. I've been here my entire adult life. I want to be a Twin. He even talked at the All-Star break. He talked to Clayton Kershaw. Maybe it was last year. I can't remember. But he remembers talking to Clayton Kershaw about like, hey, it's only been blue and white for you your entire career. And Kershaw apparently like lit up and was like, yep, and I love it. And Byron had the thought of, man, that's going to be me one day. He genuinely wants to stay with this organization, as Tom Pohlad has said, when they maybe not have fully earned that level of commitment or loyalty. That's amazing to hear. And I love that he said that. So anyway, do you guys have any thoughts on the Pohlad brunch? I just brought that up just to kind of like frame it of what this is kind of turning into by the end of this. So
I think it's a lot of very nice quotes, but I don't know if it means anything. I mean,
he has to prove it.
Has he done the most important thing yet, which is hire a really intelligent baseball person to run his operation? Or is he going to be a billionaire who thinks only he alone can fix it? Because he's going to be humbled if that's the case, in my opinion. So
with this is the quote. So I take that from AaronGleeman.com, who I quote all of the time. You guys are probably sick of hearing the name. A lot of this brunch was not on the record. And apparently they had to push for stuff to be on the record. But this is Aaron Gleeman's thought, who has been very critical of the Pohlad family. To the point where he just does not like them, and that's my opinion. He said he did not, the way Pohlad was coming off is that Tom did not want to say anything that would tip the scale for the front office to deal with. As in, he didn't want to say, we're absolutely buying, this is what we're going to do. He said that's 100% the baseball, that's 100% on Jeremy Zoll, who is the new GM. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. Now, I don't know if he said that because, like I said, a lot of this was off the record, but that was Aaron Gleeman's impression of this brunch, is Tom Pohlad did not want to interfere with a baseball decision. He wanted it to be completely on Jeremy Zoll's decision. However, he also left that brunch in as if it's a coin flip, and if Zoll comes to Tom and says, "What do we do?" I think Tom Pohlad is ready to push in. Like, let's buy, let's get something. How far that goes in, I don't know. How aggressive they'll be, I don't know. But that was how he left that brunch. Anyway. All right, that's enough about quotes about the owner. I do want to talk about Jeremy Zoll for a bit because he was just kind of thrown into this GM role. And it's not like there's a lot that we can really kind of measure for what he's done because he was the number 2 guy under Derek Falvey, who left very quickly in December. A month before spring training. The one thing I will say, he has not really sat on his hands, especially, and I'm talking during the season, where I think that was the frustration with Derek Falvey. Derek Falvey was a long-term guy, which should not surprise you. He came from Cleveland. So like for him to want to play the long role shouldn't be surprising. This year, he demoted Matt Wallner and Royce Lewis within the first 2 months of the season. He then also designated for assignment Simeon Woods Richardson, who, by the way, got claimed by the Blue Jays and then passed waivers completely and is now pitching in Buffalo, their AAA system. So it wasn't just the Twins that gave up on Simeon Woods Richardson, despite all of that. They called up Royce Lewis. Matt Wallner is still in AAA. I don't know if we're going to see him again, even though I think he has a 900 OPS. The issue with Wallner is he has really struggled with velocity up in the zone. And even with his 900 OPS, all of his home runs have come on pitches below 93 miles an hour. So it doesn't actually fix the problem despite the numbers. He has acquired, and this is again, since the start of the season, he has thrown out or demoted 28 total pitchers. 6 pitchers made their MLB debut. 7 relievers have been added since opening day, and they've had a total of 22 separate relievers. A bullpen is 8 guys, and they've basically gone through 3 separate bullpens as far as turnover. Which means, now again, the bullpen hasn't been good at all. It hasn't. But it was also predictably not going to be good. But at least it's not like we're seeing the same 8 guys. There's churn. They're trying to find something. Now, some of that, their hands are forced because you can't have, Luis Garcia, who I think struck out literally a single batter in 15 innings. You cannot survive with that in today's environment. Justin Topa was no longer a major league player. And I think he's even went to Toronto and I think was cut and is in AAA somewhere. He hasn't sat on his hands. And I guess that's a positive. I don't know. Is that a positive?
I think it is because you could run into a couple relievers just through that churn. You're going to find somebody at some point. You're going to go through a lot of bodies in the process, but
They have found someone. They found a couple
is
of guys.
fantastic. It looks like. I think that's exactly who I'm alluding to. Is you hit on something there.
So, and then lastly, I'll talk about Derek Shelton, who was handed a roster who just didn't work. There are too many left-handed hitters. There was no defensive flexibility. It just didn't work. So, his opening day infield, and I'm just going to read out their outs above average. Now, this is their current because I'm not smart enough to figure out what they were after they changed their position. So this is what they're currently at when I looked this up this morning. Josh Bell has a -1 outs above average. He has played, I'm not kidding you, 10 games at first base because he was so bad when he played first base, they stopped doing it. Luke Keeschel, -7. Brooks Lee at shortstop, -7. Royce Lewis at third base, -5. Their opening day infield as from the opening day to July 17th, had -8, 15, -20 runs for outs above average.
Eric, you want a way to improve that bullpen? Catch the ball in the infield a little bit more often.
Get like a defense? That is about as bad of a defense as you will ever see a major league club have. You cannot survive with naked. And I understand there's flaws with outs above average. There's flaws with just defensive metrics. There are. But this is the stat that we have to cite. Outs above average is the stat I choose to cite to be consistent. So here we go. Now, his entire infield is completely different. Now, some of the names are the same, but where they're shifting. So Royce Lewis started out at third base. He's now playing first base. So he still has that -5, but he looks like a pretty good first baseman. As he should be, he was a shortstop who was playing third base. Cody Clemens has a +3 outs above average. Ryan Kreidler has a +1 outs above average, which he just kind of started. I think he should get more playing time than he has. They've been doing a platoon with him and Tristan Gray. Tristan Gray is not a good shortstop. He has like a -4. So I'm choosing to cite Kreidler because he's positive. And then you have Brooks Lee playing at third base. And Brooks Lee's looked perfectly fine. I think Brooks Lee was at -7 today. I think he was at like -8 or 9. I want to say the Twins for the first time this year had a positive outs above average cumulatively, and it was like neutral or like 1. But to go from -20 for the season to just nothing, that is such a tremendous improvement. And that is Shelton moving guys around. And I don't want to say not caring about, he's putting like the results there. He's moving people based off results and like their abilities. And from what you can hear, and I don't talk about chemistry and all that a lot, the Twins will go out of their way right now to say that they are hanging out in the clubhouse much longer than they used to. They are going out to have team dinners after every road trip. Vibes are high with this team. And part of that is Byron Buxton has taken on a leadership role. Derek Shelton is very good at communicating with players, as in he will call out in his office. He will have small talks with everyone, including Byron Buxton, who he actually called into his office and said, "Hey, I think you're trying too hard here. Every guy here respects you. Stop trying so hard." And then Buxton went off. To do that as a rookie manager for your best player, that takes some brass. Now, this is all great. This is all like whatever. You also notice I haven't talked about the roster at all. So like, I want to preface that because I haven't talked a lot about like the front office or the leadership crew. I believe that this organization is headed in a better direction than they were 6 months ago, and I don't think I would have said that. So anyway, let's talk.
Before you move off of Shelton, I just want to say something real quick. First of all, you mentioned he's a rookie manager. He's rookie to the Twins, but he's been managing for quite a while. Secondarily, I really like what he's done in what you're describing. And another way I talk about it is some of these young arms he's gotten and they've stuck in the bullpen. Andrew Morris comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
He'll just chew in like close game, 8th inning. Go ahead, Andrew Morris. Let's see what you got. There's been an element of like, we're either going to win or we're going to learn something about what we have. And so I really respect that. I really like that he hasn't managed scared in that way. And I just wanted to allude to that. I give him a lot of credit for being willing to do that with some really young players and some older guys for that matter.
I think he's done about as nice of a job as you could ask for. Now, this is also his second time around. He was the bench coach in 2019. He was also he was one of the few coaches to transition from Paul Molitor when he was fired to Rocco Baldelli in 2019. And the first year of Baldelli's manager position, Shelton ran spring training. He really was the bridge to go, which is why like the Pirates hired him in 2020 and in a 5-year run. So like I do want to give kudos to him, but also like There's a reason that when the Twins hired him, I think I spent 2 minutes on him because I just don't think the manager plays that big role. So like I did want to give him some flowers here, and talking about him for 10 minutes I think does that. I might not mention Derek Shelton again for the rest of this year. But I think he's done a nice job. I think he's done a really good job with communicating. They've also brought in the Tigers assistant hitting coach, which is a good transition into the offense because somehow this is the best offense in the American League. I have no words, to be honest with you. Nobody saw this offense as anything more than maybe average. It was Byron Buxton, whatever you believed in Royce Lewis, and then you had a promising rookie year from Luke Keeschel. Right now, they are first in the American League in runs. They are second in OPS, second in hits, fourth in home runs, and third in third in doubles. Who saw that coming from this lineup that nobody believed in? Which, by the way, for the most part, except for Victor Caratini and Josh Bell, is the same lineup that we saw in August and September flail and just be pathetic for 2 months, where they were the worst team in the American League. They're now the best, I will say, the best offense in the American League, but obviously, like, that's subjective, and I didn't say first in any of those categories, but goddamn, like, they're just scoring runs right now. Now, how are they doing it? Some of this is deceptive, and this is where I think it's going to get really tricky when we're talking about the Twins at the trade deadline and all of that. Is Josh Bell had he had a good 3 weeks and then had a brutal slump in like May. But in June and July, Josh Bell has a 140 OPS plus. Victor Caratini, so Ryan Jeffers goes down with a hamate bone injury. Same thing that Jose Ramirez is going out with. Caratini, I think, has like a 70 OPS plus at the time. In June, which is the Jeffers injury, Victor Caratini had a 184 OPS plus.
Okay.
I'll repeat that because that sounds absurd. Victor Caratini in June had a 184 OPS plus, almost double a league average hitter for June. Now he's come back around. So what I'm saying is they got absurd production from two players that were backing up. Outside of that, Cody Clemens this year has a 115 OPS plus. Trevor Larnach has a 131 OPS plus. Ryan Jeffers, who just came back from that hamate bone, has a 160 OPS plus. And then you just have Byron Buxton with a very casual 146. How are they the best offense in the American League? It's because they've gotten absurd production from Bell, Caratini, Clemens, Larnach, Jeffers, Buxton. That is 5 deep. All of them with the lowest OPS plus is 115 in the last 6 weeks. That's why they've done it. Does that mean they're going to continue to do it? Right now they're up 5-2, and it looks like they're putting a threat together with Larnach at the plate and Jeffers on deck in Chicago right now. But I guess that's kind of the problem. These are the guys I think everyone thought were going to be traded at this deadline when the Twins inevitably were not going to contend. And they were going to ship off Bell, not Caratini has a 2-year deal. Clemens, nobody saw coming, but Larnach absolutely, and Jeffers is in a walk here. I don't know what to do. Also, Luke Keeschel's been up and down. He's kind of trending in the right way. His skill set is never going to be. He's going to have to do a lot to have an 800 OPS, and I'll phrase it that way. He has singles, doubles, on base. He'll hit 5 to 10 home runs a year, but if he hits 5 home runs a year, he's probably going to have a 700 OPS, and if he has the 10, he might, depending on his doubles, he might have an 800. He's an on-base steals defense guy, which they moved him mid-season from second base, who, again, -7,
to right field where he has looked pretty good. Where, by the way, he was drafted as a center fielder. So it shouldn't be surprising that he's a better outfielder than an infielder. And the only reason he was in the infield was he had Tommy John surgery. They played him at first base. And when the way the injuries lined up, when he was called up, he was basically put at second base because the bat played, and he was enough of an athlete that they just assumed he would figure it out. Well, he didn't figure it out. He was maybe the worst second baseman. We talked about Bazana's defense being disappointing. Luke Keishel's was borderline unplayable. But also, so was the rest of the lineup. So, did Trevor Larnach just hit a home run? No, he didn't. Okay. I guess that's all I have on the offense. You guys have any further thoughts on the offense other than like how, why?
I mean, I guess my biggest concern is, okay, if you say we're tied for a wild card spot right now, we're not going to sell if we want to buy. How much of this is just like you got a hot streak going, and like all these guys who you don't expect to have this production, and you don't expect to continue having this production. How much are you going to put stake in that? Or do you just say, sell them while they're high? You're going to get the most value.
Right. I agree with you. And I think that is, I just kind of praised Jeremy Zoll. And I also kind of put some heat on Tom Pohlad. There might have been a point to that because I think the Twins are going to have a very difficult trade deadline to maneuver because the goal of this year was to kind of get playing time for this new crop of talent, which, by the way, outside of injuries, they have all performed. I'm going to talk about them in a minute, but they have guys who you can see replacing the impending free agents outside of Jeffers, because Jeffers, we talked about last week. The Twins have had a catching depth issue, and they really kind of, in the last since last year's trade deadline where they acquired 2 catchers, they just drafted 2 catchers at their first and second round picks. They've acquired 4 catchers in the last calendar year. Their depth is now fine. I think that's going to be the issue is who do you believe in to keep this up? Because I can tell you Trevor Larnach has a 133 OPS plus. I've watched 5 years of Trevor Larnach. That dude is not a 133 OPS guy. He does not have a lot of power. I haven't showed a lot of this, so maybe I should have done this for you guys, so sorry for not doing it. But Larnach has 7 home runs on the year. Do you guys have a mental picture of Trevor Larnach in your head? He's like 6'5". I think you would describe him as lumbering, rounding the bases. He has 7 home runs.
You should have twice as much.
Exactly, and that's been his entire career. When he hits a home run, that effort soars. He just can't hit a home run. Like, he just doesn't have that contact consistently. Now, he has 18 doubles. He has a triple, and I want to challenge that because I don't remember that. And I watch a lot of Twins games. He has 34 walks. So, he has a 289 batting average, a 378 on base, and a 451 slug. This is about as good as he plays. And I'll pull up his Savant page. I haven't looked in this in a couple of weeks, so maybe I'm going to look like a fool, but it's middling. I think a lot of people have he's been so much better in left field. Well, he has a -5 outs above average this year. Last year, he played a lot of DH, so it's probably not as bad, but it was -4. But again, he played a lot of DH because he struggled to stay healthy. His sprint speed, and so many people talk about his sprint speed improving because last year at the trade deadline, Rocco asked him to steal bases. His sprint speed was 19th percentile at 26.1. This year it's 26.9. He's gone up not even a full foot per second. He's 29 years old. They have him through next year. I've seen enough of Trevor Larnach
to know this isn't going to be sustainable. I would be looking to ship him, but I would have said that last year and the year before, and the effort is still in the lineup. So I don't know if they're going to trade him. The rest of the roster, I mean, Tristan Gray has looked pretty bad. Brooks Lee is kind of, since moving to third base, he's looked better. He's also, what's a little bit deceiving, I didn't look up his splits because, well, I did look up his splits, but it's a little bit deceiving. He has a 103 OPS plus, but I'll just show you guys why this was like difficult for me to like gauge where he's at. But if you look at his splits, he's been great, he's been terrible. OPS plus in March and April, 720, 760, 761, 657. So I guess it's actually been a little bit better than that. But he's been pretty consistent, except for it really doesn't feel like he's been consistent. I either feel like he's in a slump or he's just hitting a home run a couple times a week. But he's been fine. I don't have a lot of expectations for Brooks Lee at this point, other than just to be a solid starter. I don't need him to be a superstar. So, and then you have Ryan Jeffers, who is having a career year. He's played, oh my goodness, he has played 39 games because of the hamate bone, but he has a 942 OPS plus, and he just hit a home run with in the first game back from the All-Star game. Jeffers has been an above average catcher for his entire career, 109 OPS plus for his career, but he's hit 133 OPS plus before. He was 110 last year. He's been a very, very good offensive catcher. Defensive has not been that great for him, but his walk here. So if you keep him, do you feel like you're going to give Ryan Jeffers, who I believe is 29 years old, according to Baseball Reference, are you going to give him a qualifying offer? Would either of you give him a qualifying offer, knowing his track record with a breakout season this year?
And how much would the qualifying offer be? What,
$25 million.
Oh, yeah.
You're assuming, Eric, we're going to have qualifying offers next year, first of all.
Well, they're going to have to go this. So this CBA, I agree with you, but this CBA expires in December. So they're going to have to submit qualifying offers before the CBA.
I think I would. I would offer him a catcher who's slugging .538 and has walked as much as he's struck out for a 1-year deal. I wouldn't give him $25 million a year for 5 years, but for 1 year, okay, I could do that.
I mean, he's slugging that, but it's in 40 games. And
yeah,
if
he's been very. I agree. And Lee, you're not wrong. Like if you watch Ryan Jeffers, he's been very streaky. Last year, he got more consistent because he changed his swing style. He was hitting more contact. The difference is his power just returned this year. And Lee, you nailed it. I don't know if he's that consistent hitter to get him.
And you know what? You're forgetting he just had a hamate bone removed.
Yes.
And that tends to lead to a zap of power.
Yes.
So you know what?
For the rest of that year.
Yeah, it's for the rest of that year. It's not permanent, but it does kind of sour me on. Maybe I wouldn't. Yeah.
If he said where's his defense at, like below average. I mean, I wouldn't give a catcher that, he'd have to be, OPS 900 for me to give.
He is though.
In 40 games.
Yes, I'm just saying, and that's what makes this really fascinating. Is what do you do with Larnach, who's overachieving, Jeffers, who's walking, that I don't think you're going to give a qualifying offer, but also just remember, the owner just said $100 million payroll isn't going to cut it. So do the Twins offer Ryan Jeffers the qualifying offer under the spirit of Tom Pohlad saying, we need to invest in the team and we're going to pay a premium for a good catcher. But then also they just signed Victor Carantini to a 2-year deal.
So yeah, how much would you be paying your catchers overall total?
$31 million.
Yeah, that's a great way to increase your payroll in a very stupid way.
unless he's again the best offensive catcher. Sorry, I don't want to say the best offensive catcher because Dylan Dingler is a
And
thing.
and Shea Langoliers.
If you're asking me next year who has a 900 OPS, Ryan Jeffers or Dylan Dingler, the answer is I'm gonna stick with Dingler, right? But I also don't think Jeffers is going to be that. I don't think he's going to crater either. But he's also a catcher, so he might crater because he's going to be 30 years old.
That's a great way to increase your payroll very quickly, but it's not a smart way to do it.
Sure, but it's only for 1 year. Are you really sunk? Is there a bad 1 year deal?
Yes.
Okay. Never mind. So
I wouldn't sink $31 million into 2 catchers. That's
right. Well, especially when you have one signed up. So like, we'll go into the scenarios later, but like I'm planting some seeds so we can come onto a conversation later on what the Twins should do, because I just think there's 3, I think, viable options, and it's just going to be interesting what they do. But let's talk about the starting pitching. The starting pitching right now, they are 7th in the American League in ERA and expected ERA. That's according to Fangraphs. Taj Bradley, and that's deceiving. It's been Taj Bradley and Joe Ryan doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Bailey Ober, who again is having a really nice start. He's out of the game right now, but he had, I think he gave up 1 run today. Bailey Ober, again, lest we forget, is throwing under 90 miles an hour. But it's been Bailey Ober and Taj Bradley, who both have a 2.8 and a 2.6 WAR, baseball reference WAR. They've been phenomenal. I would say as good of a 1-2 punch as you can have, I'll say, in this division. I understand Skubal and Mize have been very good, and I did just give Gavin Williams and Messick and Bybee a lot of flowers, but these 2 have been phenomenal. And then it's just been cast and crew. Connor Prelip, I think, it just came up. Not just came up. He's a rookie this year. He has a 3.88 FIP, but a 5 flat ERA. What's going to be interesting with Connor Prelip is, one, I am mortified at his arm, and I mean health-wise, because he has pitched, and I think they said this, since his senior year of high school, before this year, since his senior year of high school to 2020, to the end of 2025, he had pitched 150 innings of professional baseball. This year, he has pitched 66 innings. He's going to have a pitch limit, and you'll see right now on Baseball Reference, he's on the 15-day IL because of a blister. I'm going to suspect there's going to be another 15-day IL stint around the last half of August into September, or they're going to transition him into the bullpen. I don't think you can responsibly throw Connor Prelip past 100 to 120 innings this year. You just can't. When he has looked good, when he's had an extra couple days rest, they've also bent over backwards to give him an extra day's rest at every opportunity. They're going to be careful with this dude, as they should. He has a very good slider. He can throw mid to high 90s, and he's now developed a curveball that has been pretty good. So I know he has a 5 ERA, and maybe I'm just wish casting. He's looked a lot more impressive. 9.6 strikeouts per 9. Walk rate's pretty high with a 3.4, but I don't know. I think he should probably, responsibly, I think he should be a reliever, because I think his arm is just going to fall off if he remains a starter, but he has been good. And then you have Mike Paredes, who honestly saved this rotation from absolute collapse. They had, at one point, the injuries in the starting rotation: Pablo Lopez, Mick Abel, Bailey Ober, who just returned, and David Festa, whose career might be done. That's 4 guys to their starting rotation that left largely before the start of the season even started. You also toss in Taj Bradley, missed a couple of weeks, and then Ober, like I said, just came back from the starting from the IL. He's starting today and looked pretty good. Zebby Matthews has come in and looked pretty good, but Mike Paredes has a 4.60 ERA and a 6.06 FIP, which means Mike Paredes was pretty fortunate. He has a 4.6 strikeout per nine and a 3.4 walk per nine. God bless Mike Paredes. he's he's had a really nice run, and I think he has some tools that I think he might have bought himself maybe a year or two in the majors. But we can't trust Mike Paredes to like do anything more for the rest of this year. That wouldn't be responsible to me. They do have Kendry Rojas, who is in like this frustrating tweener position. He's a rookie. He's a left-handed pitcher, much like Prelip is. He can throw mid-90s with a big slider. The difference is Rojas doesn't have a lot of control. So he's probably destined for the bullpen based off that because they're just gonna basically have him throw a slider and a fastball. They've been throwing him 3 or 4 innings at a time, so he's not a starter, but he's not a reliever. They just need to pick a line. Right now he's in AAA because the Twins did have quite, like I just listed, they had 4 guys on their starting pitching depth need to get hit. They're just kind of keeping him on ice in AAA right now in case they need another guy. I think you're at the point, and we're about to talk about this bullpen. I think you need to take a risk and just throw Kendry Rojas in the bullpen for the rest of this year and then just figure out what you want to do later. There's value into someone throwing 3 or 4 innings, but to me, that's what Mike Paredes is for. Mike Paredes should not be in the starting rotation if you can help it. But if a game is lost and you need someone to eat the rest of the game, throw in Paredes. I think that's perfectly fine. All right, then this bullpen. Oh, Jesus Lord. Okay. I can barely fit it on the same screen. So, this bullpen is in the American League, and there's 15 teams in the American League. 14th in ERA and 14th in expected ERA. They are one of 3 teams in the American League with an ERA for the bullpen above 5. And it's the Athletics and the Royals. And then there's a big gap. I think it goes from like 5.13, which I think is the Athletics, and it goes to like 4.6 for the bullpen. This bullpen is 13th in FIP and 15th in expected FIP, according to Fangraphs. They are 14th, second worst in the American League in left on base percentage. So they are the second worst team in the league, in the American League, at just not allowing people to score. And then they're 10th in WPA. I think a lot of that, if I could structure this, if I could cut out a section of the season, there was a brief window of like 4 weeks where the Twins bullpen actually held leads pretty good. I think outside of that, they've been atrocious. If you look at this bullpen, right, I'm not kidding you. They have thrown 30 different players on the mound this year. 2 of them are position players, but like I said, 22 of them are relievers. Most of them, it hasn't been a lot of good results. Anthony Bonda looked good, and then he tore his lat. Yolandris Gomez is looking like a find. He has a 171 ERA. He has a 306 FIP, but his strikeout rate could be a little bit higher. I think he's also been dealing with something for the last couple of weeks because they really did temper his usage. But he also hasn't struck out a lot of guys. He's also only given up 1 home run all year. Probably going to have some regression there. He is a fly ball pitcher. Andrew Morris has looked very good. It's just they've kind of been using him a little bit into like 1 or 2 inning roles. He has a 3.33 ERA. He has a 2.62 FIP. He looks like a guy you can depend on for a minute. Everyone else is a flyer. I like Marco Araya, who's on the IL. Woo-Suk Go, who they just got, I don't think is going to be around for long. He's only thrown 2 innings, so I'm not too worried about him. They did just trade for Tommy Nance, who is a major league arm, and that's about it. But they brought him in like 2 weeks ago for a prospect, so maybe that's something. So this bullpen has been a mess all year. You have like 3 guys I think you can depend on, and that is Gomez, Morris, and then whatever you believe in Cole Sands. But he's been injured for most of this year also. I say all of that to say this bullpen, if the Twins just had a decent bullpen, I don't believe they're 1 game under 500. I dare to say they would be up with Cleveland and Chicago if they just had an average bullpen and not like the second or third worst, depending on what you view of Detroit's bullpen in baseball. So, any thoughts on the bullpen? I don't know.
I mean, I think you said it sucks ass. It's not going to get fixed anytime soon.
Well, that's the frustrating at the trade deadline. You can get just moderate relievers.
Who's going to be selling? Everyone's going to be looking for bullpen, and there's not going to be many sellers. You're going to have to overpay for an average reliever.
But if I'll add to that, Eric, if you want to add bullpen, that's fine. But you got what are you going to trade in order to get bullpen? So I presume if we're adding bullpen here, we're not trading off Jeffers and Clemens and this guy and that guy, those 5 offensive players that you feel so strongly about, because that would defeat the purpose of adding a bullpen.
Right.
So how do you maneuver in such you're trading prospects for a bullpen? Yeah. Because I'm holding my thoughts to the end on kind of what the Twins should do, but that doesn't equate to me.
Good, because I have 3 plans for them, so I'm good. Hold on to your thoughts. I have one more section, which isn't going to take that long, and then we'll go into that. Lee, do you have anything to say outside of what you just said?
No, that was it.
Off of that, I think Andrew Morris is really interesting. I think Gomez is really interesting, and you need to build around that, but because that's clearly not enough. But you've found some stuff, and that's at least encouraging.
Well, also, it's not through like I said at the top. They've had 22 separate relievers this year. They've almost gone through 3 full bullpen.
11 Twins have saved a game this year.
Yes, and they just acquired Woo-Suk Go, and they just acquired Tommy Nance, who are probably also going to save a game between now and the end of the year. So, I'll start. I'm just going to talk very briefly about what another wrinkle into what this trade deadline might be for the Twins. And I've said this all year. The Twins have I think 4 of their top 6 prospects in AAA hitters ready to go. The problem is they have the best offense in the American League right now, and a lot of those prospects in AAA have been injured. Walker Jenkins had some type of soft tissue issue. He has a 901 OPS in 42 games. Kalen Culpepper has an 868 OPS in 63 games. Emmanuel Rodriguez has a 923 OPS in 25 games. And then Gabriel Gonzalez has been up and down, but he has a 724. But he's been a roller coaster. What I will say, all of them we would see in the majors right now. Right now they would be in the freaking lineup in Chicago playing in Wrigley. But Jenkins had a soft tissue issue. Culpepper has been banging on the door for the majors for the last 6 weeks. I think since outside of April, he has a 900 OPS. But he literally strained his glute. So he pounded on the door so much it became a pain in his ass. You then have Emmanuel Rodriguez. And if you guys, does anyone remember how Emmanuel Rodriguez sprained his UCL in his thumb?
Playing Fortnite.
He slid headfirst into first base.
Oh, that's right.
And this thumb, by the way, has caused him issues to miss multiple months last year.
I saw a TikTok or something of just what Emmanuel Rodriguez is doing to himself, and it's just constantly dropping stuff on his foot. Why is he doing this if he's knows his thumb is going to get injured, and he's injured his thumb before? And let's slide head first into first base.
And I think I talked about it in our season preview. I'm not even that high on Emmanuel Rodriguez. Like, there are severe red flags. He is incredibly patient that we don't know if he's incredibly patient or incredibly passive, but he has like a 30% strikeout rate in AAA. But he has a skill set where he's a good defender. He has elite power. He has a good arm, and again, he has supposedly good zone control. He might just be a very good fourth outfielder for the next decade, who can hit 30 homer power, but hit 195. We also can't forget about Alan Roden, who they traded for at the trade deadline last year, is also a left-handed hitter. He's in the majors right now, but they have those guys just waiting in the wings, looking for player time or playing time, and they're kind of blocked by Larnach, Bell, Clemens. So we'll see. To me, this whole point of this year is to play the kids, but because they're unexpected, I'll say contenders in the context of contenders, but like I don't want to seem like I'm stretching what I'm saying here. There's three options for the Twins, and I'll give you guys have to pick one of these three options. Option A, stick with the plan. Sell all impending free agents, call up all the young guys, and hope you can make it. Plan B, make a run and buy. Keep all impending free agents, and then buy the best possible relievers you can. And then C is try to do the Cleveland two-step at the deadline and sell and buy at the same time. As in, maybe it's Milwaukee does this more than Cleveland. So, like, Milwaukee will trade away a Corbin Burns, maybe the second or third, a top 5 pitcher in the National League, and then also still compete. So do they sell Jeffers and either one of Bell, Clemens, or Larnach? Because I don't think you can sell all 4 of them and responsibly say you're selling at the deadline, because those are like your 4 best hitters, 4 of your 5 best hitters. And then lightly buy in relievers, which means like a Tommy Nance, or I don't know, who's the 4th guy in the Tigers bullpen?
Tyler Holton.
Maybe a half step below him. Maybe Tyler Holton or that caliber.
Holton.
If you were the GM of the Twins, in this long thesis that I have laid out, there's a lot of complexities, I feel like, with this deadline, with this team, and maybe that's just me like thinking too much about it, but I'm curious what you guys think about it. But after all of that, you have those 3 options. Stick with the plan, sell everyone, all impending free agents. 2, make a run and buy, keep everyone and buy very good relievers, or do the Milwaukee two-step and sell and buy at the same time.
I would sell. I mean, you got players you got like a 30-year-old Cody Clemens and Ryan Kryler, who's like the career year. I mean, these are not guys who are going to that you can count on in a playoff situation. I would just sell. You're not going to give Ryan Jeffers $25 million. What prospects do you really feel comfortable trading away to overpay for some relievers and, flame out in the playoffs when realistically you look at this roster, this is not a roster built for a postseason run.
Beyond what I think should happen, the Minnesota Twins front office needs to take a good long look in the mirror and make a decision on whether they think this is real or not. And quite frankly, you can be excited if you're a Twins fan because this team has overperformed the expectation that they had this year. But the fact of the matter is, they're still a below 500 team in a weak division, in a weak league. And again, you have to take a good long look in the mirror and say, do we really have a chance at getting into an ALCS? Do we really have a chance of making a World Series? And if we don't, what are we doing here? Why are we mortgaging our future to, as Lee alluded to with the Guardians a little bit ago, get swept by the Yankees in the wild card round. Yes, it's exciting. It's going to make your fans happy in the short term. Don't make your decision based on the fans. And my concern is with this ownership and the things that Mr. Pohlad has said and how we need to effing win.
They are way more too
Doesn't-
concerned about what fans are going to think.
Tom, don't do what the fans want. The fans don't run the team. You run the team. Smart baseball people should run the team. And quite frankly, here's my answer. I'm going to break your rules, Eric. I would keep Cody Clemens because that guy is in his third year of service. And either you stumbled on a guy who is an awesome utility man who can hit for power, or he turns back into a pumpkin. And you know what? If he turns back into a pumpkin, you're paying him arm. Oh well, it'll be okay for a year. You can non-tender him the next year. Other than that, I would ship those guys out. Get whoever you want from the Yankees for Ryan Jeffers, because you know that's going to happen. And you've got a crop of players, like you were saying, that is ready to matriculate and compete. And don't get tricked by the fool's gold.
Yeah.
Stick to the plan. Keep Clemens.
I think I would be inclined to do. I think both of those are fine to sell. I think that's what makes my question at least a little bit interesting. Is I think very few people would actually select go all in. I just whatever. I don't think this team is good enough for you to go quote unquote all in. I do think there's a reasonable argument for all three of them if you include that the American League is weak, that the Guardians and the White Sox are not running away with this division, that you could again, to me, and this is how I just view the playoffs, get hot for 3 weeks and get a ring, because lest we forget, the 1987 World Series team had a negative run differential and did it. Now, this is a completely different environment, but like Linsanity runs do still happen in the playoffs. I would be inclined to trade Larnach. I think Larnach has to go because you have to make room for Walker Jenkins, Emmanuel Rodriguez, or Gabby Gonzalez. One of those guys, they have to be in the majors before the end of this year because you have to see if these guys are ready or if they need another year of cooking or if they're just nothing. Now, they're not going to be able to tell if Walker Jenkins is nothing in 2 months or any prospect in 2 months. But you need to see them this year. And Trevor Larnach is just jamming up this line to the point. What is the problem? It's like you trade Trevor Larnach at probably the peak he's going to play. A 133 OPS plus when his career average is literally like dead average. He's a crappy defending left fielder. You can replace him with Walker Jenkins, who is a young, athletic, good defender in left field, who doesn't need to hit 133 OPS plus. If he hits 100 OPS plus, that probably, it won't quite equate out, but it's going to be close enough. You're going to know something about Walker Jenkins for the next 7 years, 6 years, because it's pretty late in the year. Same thing with Emmanuel Rodriguez. Kalen Culpepper just needs to get over the literal pain in his ass so that he can take the shortstop position from Ryan Kreidler and Tristan Gray. And I've been really impressed with Ryan Kreidler this year in the context of I think he can be a very good role player on a good team. But that's not someone who I want to have more than 300 at-bats a year.
If Ryan Kreidler is your starting shortstop, you're
And
not.
and it's solely off of defensive metrics, and he's popped 5 home runs this year, and he has an above-average OPS plus. Culpepper, he does not have a tool that is elite, but he does a lot of things well, and you just have to replace the production of basically 2. I'll say 30 year. I know Kreidler's 28, but basically Gray is 30 years old. But 2 journeyman middle reliever, quad A depth. That's the production you're replacing. get rid of Larnick. If you get an offer you can't refuse on Jeffers, I think you take it. But I can't make a case to trade Bell, Clemens, Jeffers, and Larnick. I can't do all four of them because they're the four best. They're one of your four of your top six options in this lineup. Lest we forget also, like, Matt Wallner is a thing, but I just think he's just done. I don't know. So I guess I will say option C, and that's mainly includes trade Trevor Larnach because we need to see the young guys play in that position, and I think they can mimic his productivity in the last year or in the last like 2 months, and you learn something about the future. If you trade Jeffrey, go ahead.
I don't think split strategy, Milwaukee two-step, whatever you called it, is absurd. I think that there's some logic to that, and I think there's a way to remain, stick to your principles, but also remain competitive.
Also, can I make one other point about if they want to do the Milwaukee two-step, which is just a stupid thing to say, but I'm sticking to it. Connor Prelip, like I just said, is going to be on an innings limit. Kendi Rojas can throw gas. Those are two guys. If they're still competitive in September, you flip those guys to the bullpen. Nick Abel has an outside chance of coming back in September. Flip him to the bullpen. And then between Gomez and Morris and hopefully Prelip, Rojas, and Abel, that's a lot of pressure to put on young guys, but at least those are 5 viable arms that can at least blow people away in a playoff game. And they don't have that right now. Because in a playoff series, you need like 3.5 starters. Well, the Twins have pretty good 1 and 2. Joe Ryan and Taj Bradley. And this is assuming Bradley holds up. And Joe Ryan also has a history of fading in the second half that I think we need to be aware of. Go ahead.
One thing we haven't talked about at all. Obviously you wouldn't trade Joe Ryan.
It has to be a hell of a deal. I mean, it has to be such like a blow away deal. I just can't. If you're Tom Pohlad, it's going to be really hard to justify trading him. Unless, again, if the Twins go, I think they have like 10 games. Let's just say they have 10 games in the last, or 12 games in the last, like, till the All-Star game. If they go 2-10, okay, trade Joe Ryan. But in the world that I'm creating, they're at least semi-competitive. It's really hard to trade Joe Ryan and then also to say that you're still going to go into it. Because, like, at some point, if you're going to... I understand, like, this middle road of buying and selling. It's difficult to, like... The Twins have, like, the skeleton of a playoff roster. A good offense, good to great offense this year, whether you believe it or not. And then you have a really good 1-2 combination with those two. Well, if you remove Joe Ryan, it's really difficult to say it's Taj Bradley and then Bailey Ober. And Bailey Ober is like, we're doing off results. Bailey Ober's still throwing under 90 miles an hour, and he's doing fantastic for that. But do you really feel good about Bailey Ober as your number 2 in a playoff game?
If you trade Ryan, you're waving a white flag. Like, yes. That's you're on the sell side of things.
Well, I think if they trade Ryan, it's Ryan, it's Jeffers, it's Bell, it's Clemens, it's Larnach.
It has to be.
It's another 5. It's a string of 5 guys. But it's interesting. Hopefully, I have put enough thoughts in your guys' ear in my near-long rant or in my hour-long rant to be like, yeah, the Twins are interesting. They're maybe not hot garbage. I don't think they're contenders, but I think there's a logical reason for them to buy and to maybe be contenders, even though we don't quite believe in them, nor should we believe in them yet. And hopefully, I have done that.
Beyond what we think they should do, I think they're going to buy. I think they're going to... I don't think they're going to sell. Let me put it that way.
Yep.
I think they have the potential to also step in a hornet's nest in doing so. But we'll see.
Lee?
I think Dan's right. I think they're going to soft sell or soft buy. They're not going to go full on one way or the other.
Yeah, we'll see. So with that, we'll do a quick oh my goodness, where are we at with the scores here? I cannot see what Kansas City score is. That's really annoying. The Twins are up 5-2. So in 3 outs, with Gomez on the mound, the Twins will be a 500 team. I'm just gonna have to click over to this game
Throw out
because
my entire argument. They're a 500 team now.
I almost made that stupid joke when you were talking. I was about to say, Dan, can we just give this like hopefully another like 45 minutes? Okay, screw the score check. So we'll be back on Sunday. We'll preview the Tigers, the Royals, and the White Sox, which Dan and I just spent 2.5 hours on 2 teams. But hopefully this was entertaining. It's a little bonus episode. Unless you guys have any closing thoughts, I think we'll call this one.
I hope there's baseball tomorrow.
Yeah, for Cleveland. It's been starved. It's almost been a week for you. I feel sorry for you.
Tigers are currently down 1-0 to the freaking Angels and are getting torn apart by Reed Detmers. So that's going great for them.
Wait until you get to their bullpen.
Wait till they get to our bullpen.
It's Mike Trout and like sometimes Joe Adell and oh my God, there's a guy with a crappy mustache. They have like a surprise